Beneath the quiet rhythm of every living being, there is a soft and constant hum, the language of molecules at work. It is not a sound we can hear, yet it is the most fundamental music of existence. In the stillness of a single cell, reactions occur by the billions each second, each one carefully balanced, each one part of an intricate choreography that sustains life. This silent performance is what we call biochemistry, the study of the chemical processes within and around living organisms. It is, in essence, the bridge between chemistry and biology, between the invisible structures of matter and the visible beauty of life. To understand biochemistry is to look inward, not outward. It asks us to see that we are, at our most elemental level, collections of atoms and molecules that have somehow organized themselves into thinking, breathing beings. Each breath, each heartbeat, each flicker of thought in the mind depends upon precise molecular interactions that unfold without pause. Yet, unlike the mechanical clatter of a machine, this inner life is quiet, fluid, and endlessly adaptive. It is not the noise of gears, but the calm harmony of nature's design. Biochemistry begins with the simplest units, atoms, and follows their story as they join to form molecules, as those molecules become parts of larger structures, and as those structures cooperate to sustain living systems. An atom of carbon, for instance, can bind to hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen in countless ways. Through these bonds, carbon becomes the backbone of all organic life. It is the element of versatility, capable of forming chains, rings, and branching networks that give rise to the rich diversity of molecules we call biomolecules. In the world of chemistry, carbon is the quiet architect of life. But even this story is not about individual parts alone. It is about relationships, the ways in which atoms and molecules interact to maintain the delicate equilibrium of a living organism. Every molecule has its place, every reaction, its timing. When one process releases energy, another quietly absorbs it. When one system builds, another gently breaks down. Together, they create a steady state known as homeostasis, a word that means, quite simply, balance in motion. Think, for a moment, of the air you breathe. When you inhale, oxygen enters your lungs and diffuses into the bloodstream. Each molecule of oxygen finds its way to a red blood cell and binds to a protein called hemoglobin. It clings there until it reaches a cell in need of energy, where it is released to participate in another quiet event, the conversion of nutrients into usable energy. These are not grand or noisy occurrences. They are soft exchanges of molecules, like notes played on an unseen instrument, combining to form the melody of life. Biochemistry also reminds us that life does not exist in isolation. The same basic molecules are shared among all living beings, from the smallest bacterium to the tallest tree, from the coral reef to the human body. The sugars that nourish a leaf are cousins to those that fuel the brain. The proteins that make up the muscles of a bird are built from the same 20 amino acids that shape human tissue. Even the DNA that records the history of an oak tree and the DNA that carries the instructions for your own body are written in the same four-letter code: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Across every species, life speaks a common molecular language. To study biochemistry, then, is to glimpse the unity beneath diversity. The scientist peering through a microscope is not merely observing reactions, they are witnessing the timeless exchange between matter and energy, between structure and function. Each enzyme, each lipid, each nucleotide is both a participant and a witness in this ongoing story of life's quiet chemistry. For many, the word chemistry may conjure images of beakers, bubbling liquids, or the sharp scent of laboratories. But biochemistry is different. It is gentler, more organic, more alive. It happens not in glassware, but within living tissue. It is the chemistry that breathes, digests, dreams, and heals. It governs how we convert the food we eat into energy, how our muscles contract, how our brains form thoughts, and even how we fall asleep. Every mood, every motion, every moment of life is an echo of molecular motion beneath the surface. If you were to shrink yourself down to the microscopic scale, to wander through the interior of a single human cell, you would find yourself surrounded by an extraordinary landscape. The walls shimmer with lipid membranes, their surfaces alive with proteins that open and close like gates, allowing molecules to pass in measured rhythm. Within this cellular world, ribosomes float like quiet factories, assembling chains of amino acids into complex proteins. Mitochondria pulse softly as they convert nutrients into energy molecules, their inner membranes glowing faintly with the flow of electrons. Enzymes drift and collide with perfect precision, speeding reactions that would otherwise take centuries to occur. All of it unfolds in silence, in liquid stillness, guided only by the laws of chemistry. And yet, what results is life breathing, growing, reproducing, and thinking. The stillness of the molecular world becomes the movement of the living world. The tiniest vibrations of atoms, invisible and intangible, translate into the rhythm of a heartbeat, the flutter of a leaf in sunlight, or the whisper of thought passing through the mind. It can be comforting to realize that this intricate chemistry is not something separate from us, but something we are made of. Every molecule in your body has existed since the birth of the universe. The hydrogen in your cells was formed in the first moments after the Big Bang. The carbon and oxygen were forged in the hearts of ancient stars and scattered through space when those stars died. Over billions of years, these elements came together again and again in dust, in stone, in oceans, in plants, until one day they arranged themselves into the living architecture that is you. You are, in a very real sense, a collection of stardust, held together by the quiet logic of biochemistry. The purpose of biochemistry is not merely to catalog molecules or to measure reactions, but to understand how matter becomes life. It asks, how does energy flow through living systems? How do cells build themselves? How do they communicate, adapt, and repair? These are profound questions, yet they are answered not in bursts of discovery, but in calm observation. Biochemists watch and listen to the slow rhythms of molecules, translating the invisible dance into knowledge that deepens our understanding of what it means to live. In time, as we explore this subject further, we will see how molecules such as water, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids form the foundation of all life. We will learn how energy is exchanged and stored, how enzymes guide reactions, and how cells maintain balance through ceaseless motion. But for now, it is enough to rest in the awareness that all of this is happening within you, even as you breathe billions of molecular reactions, perfectly timed, sustaining your life without noise or effort. As your body settles into stillness, your biochemistry continues its gentle work. Molecules of oxygen drift through your bloodstream. Neurons exchange chemical signals in the brain, weaving threads of memory and calm. Hormones circulate, balancing energy, preparing the body for rest. The chemistry of life does not stop when consciousness fades. It only becomes quieter, more rhythmic, more serene. Biochemistry, when viewed in this way, becomes less a branch of science and more a meditation, an awareness of the harmony that underlies existence. To learn about it is to listen more closely to life itself, to the subtle pulse of reactions that never cease, to the ancient chemistry that turns atoms into thought, light into nourishment, and stillness into vitality. And so, as we begin this quiet journey through the molecular world, let each word be a soft breath in that vast rhythm. Let the knowledge unfold slowly, like light seeping through water. The chemistry of life is already within you, flowing silently through every cell, every heartbeat, every moment of calm. You do not need to reach for it. You need only to listen. 2. The molecules of life. All living things, from the smallest microbe to the largest whale, are built upon the same foundation: molecules. These tiny structures, unseen by the naked eye, form the very fabric of life. They assemble, interact, and transform in a delicate balance that keeps the body alive and the world in motion. Though we often think of life in terms of organs, tissues, or even cells, the story begins at a far smaller scale, at the level of atoms joining hands to create the substances of existence. These are the molecules of life, the quiet architects of everything that breathes, grows, and endures. Imagine, for a moment, looking closely enough to see the invisible dance of atoms. They move constantly, drawn together by forces that bind them into stable arrangements. Each bond represents an agreement between particles, a balance of attraction and energy. From this endless dance arise the molecules that make up water, sugars, fats, proteins, and the genetic material that carries the memory of all living things. Each class of molecule has its role, and together they form a complete and self-sustaining system. Among these essential molecules, one stands apart in both simplicity and importance: water. It is the silent stage upon which nearly every chemical reaction in a living organism occurs. Water molecules have a unique structure, shaped like the head of a small creature, with two outstretched arms, the oxygen atom forming the head, and the two hydrogen atoms forming the arms. This bent arrangement gives water a polarity, a subtle electrical imbalance that allows it to dissolve countless substances. Through this property, water becomes life's universal solvent. It carries nutrients through the bloodstream, delivers minerals to the roots of plants, and serves as the gentle medium in which cellular reactions unfold. Without water, life would have no rhythm, no motion, no way to exchange the chemistry that defines it. Close behind water in importance are the carbohydrates, the sugars and starches that serve as the fuel of life. Every breath we take and every step we move depends on the energy locked within these molecules. Carbohydrates are built from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, usually in simple ratios that mirror water's composition. The simplest carbohydrates, called monosaccharides, include glucose, the primary energy source for cells. When linked together in longer chains, these simple sugars form disaccharides, like sucrose, or complex carbohydrates, such as starch and cellulose. The former fuels our muscles and brains. The latter gives plants their structure and strength. Though we may not feel it, every time a molecule of glucose breaks apart within a cell, a small spark of chemical energy is released, a spark that keeps us alive, moving, and aware. If carbohydrates provide the energy, then lipids are the keepers of storage and structure. Fats, oils, and waxes belong to this family. They resist mixing with water, forming the flexible boundaries that separate life from its surroundings. In the membranes of cells, lipids arrange themselves into thin layers, their water-fearing tails turned inward, and their water-loving heads facing outward. This simple yet elegant structure allows the cell to maintain its internal environment, a private space where biochemistry can unfold, undisturbed. Beyond forming barriers, lipids also store energy more densely than carbohydrates. A single gram of fat contains more than twice the energy of a gram of sugar. It is nature's compact battery, designed to sustain life when resources grow scarce. Then there are proteins, the true craftsmen of the molecular world. They are made from smaller units called amino acids, of which there are 20 commonly found in living organisms. Each amino acid has a shared structure, a central carbon atom connected to an amino group, a carboxyl group, and a variable side chain that gives it unique properties. When amino acids join together through peptide bonds, they form long chains called polypeptides. These chains twist, fold, and coil into complex three-dimensional shapes, and in doing so, they acquire remarkable abilities. Some proteins become enzymes, speeding up chemical reactions by factors of millions. Others form the structural fibers of muscles, tendons, and skin. Still others act as hormones, signaling molecules that help one part of the body communicate with another. In every living system, proteins are the workers, the movers, the builders, the healers. Yet none of this would matter without the molecules that carry information from one generation to the next, the nucleic acids. Two main types exist, DNA and RNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, is the long, twisting molecule that contains the genetic instructions for building and maintaining life. Ribonucleic acid, or RNA, acts as the messenger, copying and carrying those instructions so that proteins can be made. The structure of DNA is as elegant as it is powerful. Two strands coiled into a double helix, like a staircase spiraling upward through time. Along each strand, chemical bases pair precisely, adenine with thymine and cytosine with guanine. This pairing ensures that when DNA replicates, it does so with astonishing accuracy. Every cell in your body, except the red blood cells, carries a complete copy of your genetic code, the quiet script written in molecular language that determines everything from your eye color to the way your enzymes function. Beyond these major families, water, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, there are countless smaller molecules that play supporting roles. Vitamins, minerals, and trace elements act as helpers in reactions, stabilizers of enzymes, or building blocks for larger structures. Even simple ions such as sodium, potassium, and calcium are vital for life. They help transmit nerve impulses, regulate heartbeat, and maintain the electrical balance of cells. Without them, muscles would not contract, thoughts would not form, and life would lose its gentle pulse. All these molecules are part of a single, continuous conversation. They interact in cycles, forming and breaking bonds in patterns that echo through every living organism. In a leaf, sunlight transforms carbon dioxide and water into sugars through photosynthesis. In an animal, those sugars are broken down to release energy, which is then used to power movement, thought, and repair. The products of one process become the starting materials of another, forming a seamless network of chemical exchange. Even death itself feeds back into this cycle. As the molecules of one organism return to the soil or the sea, where they will one day be used to build new life. It is easy to think of these reactions as purely mechanical, but there is a kind of grace in them. The molecules of life are not random assortments of matter. They are elegant solutions, refined through billions of years of natural experimentation. Every structure, every pattern, every reaction serves a purpose in the quiet continuity of existence. When you eat a piece of fruit, the sugars it contains were once captured from sunlight by the leaves of a tree. When you breathe out carbon dioxide, that gas becomes nourishment for plants once more. The cycle continues, endlessly, peacefully, with each molecule playing its part. In understanding biochemistry, we begin to see that life is not a single event, but an ongoing dialogue between the material and the invisible, between the atoms that make up the body and the energy that animates them. The molecules of life are both ancient and immediate. They have been part of Earth's story since long before humans arrived, and they will remain long after we are gone. Their transformations form the heartbeat of the planet, the quiet rhythm of growth, decay, and renewal. As you listen now, your own molecules are at work. Water flows through your cells. Sugars are being converted into energy. Proteins fold and unfold, performing their silent tasks. Strands of DNA rest within your nuclei, copying and correcting themselves with every passing moment. You are a living vessel for this molecular harmony, a brief yet magnificent arrangement of elements that have existed since the beginning of time. And so, as the body relaxes and the breath slows, imagine these molecules, countless and unseen, continuing their patient work within you. They are not in a hurry. They have been doing this for billions of years. Their movements are steady, balanced, and sure. In their quiet precision lies the essence of life itself, a gentle chemistry that never sleeps and never ends. 3. Water, the universal solvent. If we were to choose a single molecule that makes life possible, it would be water. Simple in appearance, yet profound in function. Water is the quiet foundation upon which every living system depends. It fills the oceans, flows through rivers, forms clouds in the sky, and circulates through every cell of your body. Wherever life exists, water is present, shaping it, nourishing it, and guiding its chemistry. To speak of biochemistry without water would be to describe music without sound, for water is the medium through which life's molecular symphony is played. At its essence, a water molecule is composed of 3 atoms, 2 of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen. This combination, expressed as H2O, may appear trivial, but within this simplicity lies extraordinary power. The oxygen atom holds the shared electrons a little more tightly than the hydrogens, creating a subtle imbalance in electrical charge. The oxygen end of the molecule becomes slightly negative, while the hydrogen ends are slightly positive. This uneven distribution makes water a polar molecule, with one side gently attracting the opposite charge of other molecules. Through this polarity, water gains the remarkable ability to dissolve more substances than any other liquid in existence. This property is why water is called the universal solvent. Within it, salts, sugars, and countless organic compounds break apart into their smallest components, ready to react, combine, and support life. Inside your bloodstream, for instance, nutrients travel dissolved in water, carried effortlessly to every cell. In the ocean, minerals and gases are suspended in its depths, feeding the plankton that form the base of the global food web. In soil, water dissolves the nutrients that roots quietly absorb. Everywhere it flows, it connects, sustains, and harmonizes the elements of life. The shape of the water molecule also allows it to form delicate yet powerful bonds called hydrogen bonds. Each molecule can link to its neighbors through fleeting attractions between the slightly positive hydrogen of one and the slightly negative oxygen of another. Though these connections are weak individually, together, they create a network of cohesion that gives water its distinctive properties. It is why water beads up on a surface, why it clings to itself in droplets, and why it rises up the stem of a plant against gravity. Within your own body, the same forces allow blood to flow through the finest capillaries and help the lungs expand and contract smoothly with every breath. One of water's quiet miracles is its resistance to temperature change. Because hydrogen bonds hold its molecules together, it takes a large amount of heat to raise its temperature and an equally large amount to cool it down. This high specific heat makes water a stabilizer of life's environments. Oceans moderate Earth's climate by absorbing heat in summer and releasing it in winter. Within the body, water buffers against sudden temperature shifts, keeping our internal systems steady and calm. Even at the level of a single cell, the presence of water ensures that the delicate reactions of biochemistry unfold within a stable, nurturing environment. Equally important is water's role in maintaining life's transitions between solid, liquid, and vapor. Most substances contract when they freeze, but water expands, becoming less dense in its solid form. This is why ice floats rather than sinks. If it were otherwise, lakes and oceans would freeze from the bottom up, trapping life beneath a solid shell of ice. Instead, Water's unique expansion ensures that ice forms a protective layer on the surface, insulating the liquid below and allowing life to persist even through the coldest seasons. In this way, water safeguards continuity, preserving ecosystems through cycles of freezing and thawing, evaporation and condensation, rain and renewal. Inside every living cell, water serves as both a participant and a stage for chemical reactions. Molecules move within it, collide, and combine in measured rhythm. Some reactions require water directly, for example, hydrolysis, a process in which water breaks bonds between molecules, allowing them to separate and transform. Others, like condensation reactions, release water as a byproduct when new bonds form. Thus, water is both a giver and a receiver in the dance of molecular change. It never remains idle. It is constantly being used, released, and recycled in a never-ending flow. The human body itself is a testament to the centrality of water. Roughly 60% of our mass is made of it, distributed unevenly across tissues, more in the brain and muscles, less in bones and fat. Blood plasma is mostly water, carrying oxygen, glucose, hormones, and waste through a vast network of vessels inside cells. Cytoplasm, the jelly-like substance that fills their interior, is a concentrated solution of water and dissolved molecules. Even the membranes that surround cells depend on water's polarity to maintain their structure. The outer surface of the membrane attracts water, while the inner layer repels it, creating a stable boundary that defines the space of life. Without water, none of the body's vital processes could occur. Digestion depends on it, as enzymes require an aqueous environment to function. Circulation relies on it to transport substances throughout the body. Temperature regulation, too, is a gift of water. When we sweat, the evaporation of water from the skin draws heat away, cooling us gently and efficiently. Even thought and emotion are linked to water, for neurons transmit their electrochemical signals through fluid environments, rich in ions and neurotransmitters. In every heartbeat, every breath, every blink of the eye, water is present, silent, indispensable, and endlessly patient. On a larger scale, water connects all living things in an unbroken chain of exchange. The molecules that form the rain falling tonight may once have flowed through a prehistoric river or drifted in a primordial sea. Over time, they have cycled through the bodies of animals, through plants, through clouds, and through the air you breathe now. In every drop is the memory of Earth's long history, the condensation of vapor from volcanic steam, the cooling of ancient oceans, the rise of life from liquid depths. When you drink a glass of water, you are in contact with the same substance that nourished the first living cells billions of years ago. Water also shapes the landscapes we inhabit. It carves valleys, nourishes forests, and sustains the rhythms of weather and growth. It reflects the sky, creating the illusion of calm, even as it moves continuously below the surface. Its gentle persistence wears down mountains and transforms stone into fertile soil. Through the ages, civilizations have risen along rivers and seas, drawn to water not just for survival but for its presence, its quiet constancy, its ability to mirror both earth and sky. In the stillness of night, when your body rests and the world grows hushed, the water within you continues to move. It carries nutrients into cells and ushers waste away. It flows between tissues, maintaining the delicate equilibrium that defines health. Even as consciousness drifts toward sleep, water remains awake, circulating, cooling, cleansing. It is the silent guardian of your inner world, as it has been for every living creature before you. To contemplate water is to understand life's essence. Its molecules are small, yet their influence is vast. They form bridges between atoms, between cells, and between generations of life. Every living system, from coral reefs to forests, from a bird in flight to a single human heartbeat, depends on water's quiet generosity. It binds the world together, flowing endlessly between solid ground and open sky, between one life and another. So, as you listen and breathe, imagine this element within and around you. Picture the gentle motion of water molecules gliding past one another, joining and parting in infinite rhythm. See them gathering into droplets on a leaf, coursing through veins, forming clouds that drift above sleeping oceans. Feel their calm, persistence cool, steady, eternal. Water asks nothing in return. It simply flows, giving life wherever it goes, unhurried and unending. 4. Carbohydrates, nature's energy currency. In every living cell, from the smallest bacterium to the tallest tree, there exists a quiet and continuous exchange of energy. It is not loud or visible, yet it fuels all movement, growth, and renewal. At the center of this exchange are molecules known as carbohydrates, life's natural source of energy and one of the most fundamental substances in biochemistry. These molecules act as nature's currency, storing and releasing energy with the perfect balance of efficiency and grace. Every breath you take, every thought that forms, every heartbeat that pulses through your chest, draws upon their gentle power. Carbohydrates are among the simplest of life's molecular structures, composed of only 3 elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Their very name reflects this: carbo for carbon, and hydrate for water, symbolizing the combination of these 2 elements in a harmonious ratio. Despite their simplicity, they are astonishingly versatile. From sweet-tasting sugars to tough, fibrous plant matter, carbohydrates appear in countless forms, each adapted to a unique purpose. They can be small and soluble, providing immediate energy, or vast and complex, forming the sturdy frameworks that give shape to plants and tissues. In their simplest form, carbohydrates exist as monosaccharides, single sugar molecules that act as the basic units of energy. Glucose is the most well-known among them, the molecule upon which nearly all life depends. In your body, glucose serves as the primary fuel for cellular respiration, the process by which energy is extracted and transformed into usable form. Every cell, from your muscles to your brain, relies on glucose to function. When you eat a meal, enzymes in your digestive system break down complex carbohydrates into these simple sugars, which then enter the bloodstream. Carried by blood, glucose finds its way to each cell, where it is quietly transformed into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the body's direct source of energy. There are other monosaccharides as well. Fructose, the sugar found in fruits and honey, and galactose, which forms part of milk sugar. Though their atomic compositions are identical, their structures differ slightly, giving them unique properties and flavors. Nature uses these subtle variations to craft diversity from simplicity. In plants, for instance, glucose formed during photosynthesis may be converted into fructose to create sweetness that attracts animals and insects. Through this sweet invitation, plants ensure the spreading of their seeds, continuing the quiet cycle of life. When 2 monosaccharides join together, they form disaccharides, slightly larger sugars with distinct roles. Sucrose, the common table sugar, is a combination of glucose and fructose. Lactose, found in milk, links glucose with galactose, providing nourishment for young mammals. Maltose, a product of starch breakdown, joins 2 glucose molecules together and often appears in germinating grains. Each of these sugars carries with it stored energy, easily accessible to cells and tissues when needed. Beyond these smaller forms are the complex carbohydrates, long branching chains known as polysaccharides. In plants, these chains take the form of starch, a molecule designed to store energy for future growth. Starch granules rest within seeds, roots, and tubers, waiting patiently until the plant requires them. When the time comes, enzymes break the starch down into glucose molecules, releasing energy to fuel the sprouting of new life. Humans and other animals consume starch through foods such as rice, potatoes, and grains. And within our bodies, the same transformation occurs. Starch becomes glucose, and glucose becomes energy. Another familiar polysaccharide is cellulose, a molecule that forms the rigid cell walls of plants. While starch stores energy, cellulose provides structure and strength. It is the framework that allows a tree to stand tall, a leaf to unfurl, and a blade of grass to remain upright in the wind. The bonds that hold cellulose together are so strong that most animals cannot digest it. Yet, even in this indigestible form, cellulose plays an important role in human health, serving as dietary fiber that keeps the digestive system functioning smoothly. For other organisms, like cows, termites, and certain bacteria, specialized enzymes break cellulose down, allowing them to access the energy locked within. In this way, life reuses and redistributes its resources, turning what is waste for one species into nourishment for another. Another important polysaccharide is glycogen, the animal equivalent of starch. Stored primarily in the liver and muscles, glycogen acts as an emergency reservoir of glucose. When energy demand rises during exercise, stress, or fasting, enzymes quickly break glycogen apart, releasing glucose into the bloodstream. This ensures that the body's energy supply remains steady, even in times of need. The balance between glucose and glycogen reflects the body's remarkable ability to maintain equilibrium. When energy is abundant, glucose is stored. When it is scarce, reserves are mobilized. This rhythm of storage and release is an elegant example of biochemical harmony, a steady flow that sustains life's ongoing motion. Carbohydrates also have structural and communicative roles beyond energy storage. In the outer membranes of cells, complex chains of sugars attach to proteins and lipids, forming glycoproteins and glycolipids. These molecular combinations act as identifiers, allowing cells to recognize one another. When the immune system distinguishes between the body's own cells and foreign invaders, it does so by reading these sugar patterns like a code. This same code enables cells to bind together, to exchange information, and to build tissues. Even at the microscopic level, carbohydrates help maintain order and cooperation within the vast community of the body. The story of carbohydrates begins, as many biological stories do, with sunlight. Through photosynthesis, plants capture the energy of the sun and use it to convert water and carbon dioxide into glucose. This process not only fuels the plant's own life, but also forms the foundation of nearly every food chain on Earth. When animals eat plants, they absorb the energy first gathered by sunlight. When predators eat those animals, the energy passes onward, step by step, in an unbroken chain that binds all living things. Every movement of life is powered by this ancient exchange. The quiet conversion of light into sugar, and sugar into vitality. The balance of carbohydrates within living systems is delicate. Too little energy, and life slows, unable to sustain itself. Too much, and excess sugars are stored as fat, held in reserve for times of scarcity. The body's regulatory systems, hormones like insulin and glucagon, work ceaselessly to maintain this equilibrium. When glucose levels rise after a meal, insulin signals cells to absorb it, lowering the concentration in the blood. These signals form an invisible conversation, a chemical dialogue that keeps the body in steady rhythm. In the grand design of biochemistry, carbohydrates represent more than energy alone. They embody transformation, the turning of sunlight into motion, of air into substance, of potential into life. Each molecule of glucose is a tiny vessel of light, carrying within it the memory of the Sunday. When burned in the controlled fires of metabolism, that light is released again, not as flame, but as warmth, thought. The very act of living is the slow and graceful release of energy, once captured by a green leaf in the quiet hours of daylight. If you imagine yourself now, at rest, breathing softly, you are part of this ancient cycle. The air you exhale contains carbon, once bound within a plant's sugar. The energy that keeps your body alive was once sunlight, stored in starch, passed through countless forms before finding its way to you. With each breath, the exchange continues. Carbon returned to the atmosphere, water released, energy renewed. Life, in its essence, is this ongoing conversation between the living and the elemental, between the solid and the invisible. Carbohydrates are the storytellers of that exchange. They record the flow of energy from sun to soil, from root to leaf, from fruit to body, and from body back to air. They remind us that all vitality begins with light, and that the sweetness of life is not merely a sensation, but a reflection of its origin. In every grain of rice, every drop of honey, every heartbeat sustained by sugar's warmth, there lies the quiet truth of our connection to the natural world. So, as you rest and listen, imagine those invisible molecules moving within you, simple chains of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, breaking apart and reforming, releasing the energy that allows you to be. They work silently, endlessly, just as they have since life first began. In their patient chemistry, there is neither haste nor waste, only the gentle exchange that binds all living things together. The world breathes, and through carbohydrates, so do you. 5. Lipids, the silent builders of barriers. If carbohydrates are the immediate energy of life, then lipids are its quiet reservoirs and protectors. They are the molecules that store energy for times of need, that build the boundaries of every living cell, and that insulate life against the fluctuations of the world outside. In their calm, ordered arrangements, lipids perform their work without noise, without movement that can be seen, yet their influence reaches into every aspect of biology. They are the silent architects of structure and stability, the invisible walls that separate the living from the inert. At first glance, lipids appear simple, much like the oils and fats we encounter in daily life. Yet beneath their simplicity lies a subtle complexity. For lipids are not one kind of molecule, but many a diverse family bound by one defining trait. They do not mix well with water. This hydrophobic nature is the source of both their power and their mystery. Where water dissolves and disperses most other substances, lipids hold themselves apart, forming droplets, layers, and membranes. In doing so, they create the boundaries that make individual life possible, enclosing the chemistry of cells within a protective shell. Each lipid molecule is a study in balance. Most are composed of long chains of carbon and hydrogen, with one end bearing a small, polar group that interacts with water, and the other a long nonpolar tail that repels it. This dual nature, part loving, part resisting water, allows lipids to organize themselves spontaneously. When placed in an aqueous environment, their hydrophobic tails gather inward, shielding themselves from water, while their hydrophilic heads face outward. The result is a structure known as a bilayer, the fundamental fabric of all cellular membranes. In this layer, countless lipid molecules align side by side like the surface of a calm sea, forming a barrier so thin it can hardly be imagined, yet so essential that without it, no life could exist. This delicate film of lipids, only a few nanometers thick, defines the boundary of every cell. It separates the internal environment from the external world, maintaining the precise conditions necessary for biochemical harmony. Yet, despite its fragility, This barrier is not static. It moves, flows, and flexes with the fluidity of liquid crystal. Embedded within it are proteins that act as gates, channels, and sensors, allowing communication between the inside and outside. The lipid membrane is, in truth, more like a living skin than a wall, supple, responsive, and alive with subtle motion. The lipids that make up these membranes are known as phospholipids. Their structure includes two fatty acid tails attached to a glycerol backbone, along with a phosphate group that provides the molecule's polar end. The phosphate head interacts with water, while the tails remain safely shielded within the membrane's interior. This simple design gives rise to one of nature's most sophisticated materials. Every living cell, from the simplest bacterium to the most complex human neuron, owes its integrity to this quiet arrangement of lipids. Beyond the membrane, other lipids serve as long-term energy stores. Fats and oils, collectively known as triglycerides, are built from one molecule of glycerol joined to three fatty acid chains. When energy is abundant, organisms convert excess carbohydrates into these molecules and store them in specialized tissues. In humans and animals, these storage depots take the form of adipose tissue, where each fat cell contains a droplet of triglyceride. When energy becomes scarce, enzymes break these molecules apart, releasing fatty acids that can be converted into fuel. This system allows life to endure through cycles of abundance and scarcity, conserving energy with remarkable efficiency. The difference between fats and oils lies in the nature of their fatty acid chains. In fats, such as those found in butter or animal tissues, the carbon atoms are fully saturated with hydrogen, forming straight, tightly packed chains. These molecules solidify easily at room temperature, giving them a firm texture. In contrast, oils like olive or sunflower oil contain unsaturated fatty acids, where one or more carbon-carbon double bonds introduce kinks into the chain. These bends prevent close packing, leaving the molecules liquid and free-flowing. Nature employs both types of lipids for specific purposes. Solid fats provide insulation and protection, while liquid oils maintain flexibility and smooth function in cellular membranes. Lipids also serve as messengers and regulators. Some act as hormones, carrying signals from one part of the body to another. Steroids, for example, are a class of lipids with a distinctive ring-shaped structure. Among them is cholesterol, often misunderstood, but essential for life. Cholesterol is both a structural component of cell membranes and the precursor for steroid hormones such as estrogen, testosterone, and cortisol. These hormones travel through the bloodstream, influencing metabolism, growth, and emotional balance. In the brain, lipid-derived molecules help transmit nerve signals and maintain the protective coating of neurons known as myelin. Even in the act of thought itself, lipids play their silent role, ensuring the smooth transmission of impulses that create consciousness and memory. Another group of lipids, called waxes, form protective coatings on leaves, fruits, feathers, and skin. These substances repel water, preventing moisture loss and shielding organisms from environmental stress. A desert plant's glossy leaves, a bird's preened feathers, the sheen on a piece of fruit, all are expressions of lipid artistry. On a microscopic level, even the thin film that covers the human eye is partly composed of lipids, preventing tears from evaporating too quickly and keeping vision clear. These small details remind us that the quiet labor of lipids extends far beyond the cellular level, shaping the comfort, survival, and beauty of living beings. In the vast oceans of the world, microscopic algae and bacteria also depend on lipids to survive. They build membranes that withstand extremes of temperature, pressure, and salinity. In the frozen waters of the Arctic or the boiling vents of the deep sea, lipid molecules adapt, altering their composition to maintain fluidity. This flexibility allows life to persist where conditions seem impossible. The same principle applies within the human body, where temperature and stress can shift the composition of cellular membranes, allowing them to remain balanced and functional. Through this adaptability, lipids reveal one of nature's quiet truths that endurance is found not in rigidity, but in softness and flow. It is humbling to think that such simple molecules underlie so much of life's structure and continuity. They build the walls that shelter life's chemistry, store the energy that fuels it, and carry the messages that coordinate its many parts. Yet they do all of this without direction or command. They self-assemble, guided only by the natural affinities of their atoms, drawn together by invisible forces into patterns that repeat endlessly across the planet. Within you now, millions of lipid molecules are at work. They form the membranes of your cells, allowing nutrients to enter and waste to leave. They store energy deep within tissues, ready to be called upon when needed. They shape the protective oils of your skin and the neural insulation of your thoughts. Even as you rest, they move in silence, keeping your body whole and your cells alive. The beauty of lipids lies not in their complexity, but in their quiet wisdom. They remind us that boundaries are not barriers but forms of balance, that strength can exist in flexibility, and that life, at its core, depends upon the gentle organization of matter. A single cell, encased in its lipid membrane, is a world unto itself, self-contained, protected, yet connected to everything beyond. Through that thin, fluid film, life sustains its delicate separation from the vastness of the outside world, allowing individuality to exist within unity. So, as you listen now and feel your own breathing slow, imagine those boundaries within you, billions of tiny membranes floating, pulsing, bending softly. Imagine the smooth flow of lipids across their surfaces, the shimmering line between inside and out. In that invisible stillness, life continues to renew itself, building walls not to isolate, but to protect and preserve. Lipids, in their patient work, embody the serenity of balance, holding together the fragile chemistry of existence with the gentlest of touches. 6. Proteins, the craftsmen of the cell. Among all the molecules that bring life into being, proteins are perhaps the most intricate and versatile. They are the builders, the movers, the messengers, and the guardians of every living cell. Within the soft rhythm of biochemical processes, proteins perform their quiet labor with astonishing precision, carrying out the countless reactions that sustain existence. Each protein, though made from the same fundamental building blocks, takes on a unique shape and function, tailored to the needs of the organism it serves. To explore proteins is to glimpse the craftsmanship of life itself, a work of molecular artistry that never ceases, even as we sleep. Proteins are composed of smaller subunits called amino acids. There are 20 common amino acids, each with the same basic structure: a central carbon atom bound to 4 groups, a hydrogen atom, a carboxyl group, an amino group, and a variable side chain known as the R group. It is this R group that gives each amino acid its personality. Some are small and simple, others large and complex. Some are attracted to water, while others avoid it. When amino acids join together in chains through chemical bonds called peptide bonds, they form long sequences known as polypeptides. These chains are the raw material from which every protein is crafted. The process begins in the cell, where instructions encoded in DNA determine the order in which amino acids will be assembled. Inside the ribosomes, the cell's tiny factories, amino acids are linked one after another in precise sequences. As the chain grows, it begins to fold, twist, and coil into complex shapes. This folding is guided not by any external force, but by the chemical properties of the amino acids themselves. Some portions of the chain are drawn toward water, others repelled. Some form spirals, while others fold into sheets. Gradually, the molecule adopts the unique three-dimensional structure that defines its purpose. A protein's function is determined entirely by its shape. A small change in the sequence of amino acids can alter that shape dramatically, sometimes with profound consequences. In the human body, the protein hemoglobin carries oxygen from the lungs to every cell. Its structure is finely tuned, forming a pocket perfectly suited to bind oxygen molecules. Yet a single substitution, one amino acid replaced by another, can cause hemoglobin to deform, leading to sickle cell anemia. This illustrates how delicately balanced the architecture of proteins truly is. Their beauty lies in their precision, in the quiet perfection of form-serving function. Proteins serve countless roles within living organisms. Some act as structural elements, giving strength and support to cells and tissues. Collagen, for instance, forms the scaffolding of skin, tendons, and bones, providing both flexibility and resilience. Keratin, another structural protein, shapes hair, nails, feathers, and horns. Others, like actin and myosin, are responsible for movement, sliding past one another in muscle fibers to create contraction. Even the simple act of blinking or breathing relies on these silent molecular interactions. Other proteins act as catalysts, enzymes that accelerate chemical reactions, essential for life. Without them, most biochemical processes would occur far too slowly to sustain existence. Enzymes are masters of precision. Each one recognizes only certain molecules, called substrates, and facilitates specific reactions by lowering the energy required for them to proceed. For example, the enzyme amylase in saliva begins the breakdown of starch into sugar the moment food enters the mouth, while in the stomach, proteases such as pepsin continue the digestion of proteins themselves. In the liver, enzymes orchestrate the transformation of toxins into harmless compounds. These reactions happen quietly and efficiently, guided by proteins that never rest. There are also transport proteins that carry vital substances through the body. Hemoglobin, as mentioned, ferries oxygen, while other proteins in cell membranes regulate the movement of ions and nutrients. Receptor proteins act as the senses of the cell, detecting chemical signals and triggering responses. Antibodies, a specialized group of proteins, serve as the defenders of the immune system, recognizing and neutralizing foreign invaders such as bacteria and viruses. Hormonal proteins like insulin coordinate metabolism, ensuring that cells receive the energy they need at the right time. Everywhere in biology, proteins serve as the instruments through which life expresses its complexity. Despite their diversity, all proteins share the same foundation of amino acids arranged in different patterns. Nature uses these 20 components to build an astonishing array of forms, a language of molecules that can construct everything from the feathers of a bird to the enzymes that power the brain. This versatility is made possible by the near infinite number of ways amino acids can be combined and folded. The average protein contains hundreds of amino acids, each one influencing the overall shape in subtle ways. The resulting variety is beyond comprehension. Within a single human cell, tens of thousands of different proteins coexist, each with a purpose, each performing its part in the larger symphony of life. Proteins are not static entities. They move, bend, and shift as they perform their functions. Some open and close like gates, allowing molecules to pass through membranes. Others twist in rhythm, transforming chemical energy into mechanical work. Certain proteins act as switches, changing shape in response to signals, turning processes on or off as needed. This dynamic nature allows cells to respond to their environments with extraordinary sensitivity. Life depends not only on the presence of proteins but on their constant motion, a choreography so intricate and so silent that it unfolds billions of times, each second without a single error going unnoticed. In addition to their active roles, Proteins also carry the memory of evolution. The sequences of amino acids found in modern organisms preserve the history of adaptation across millions of years. Some proteins, like cytochrome C, are nearly identical in every species, from bacteria to humans, a testament to their essential function in cellular respiration. Others have diverged and specialized, giving rise to the immense diversity of life. Through the study of proteins, scientists can trace the lineage of species and the molecular origins of complex traits, uncovering the deep unity that links all living things. Protein synthesis itself is one of life's most elegant processes. It begins when a gene, a specific segment of DNA, is transcribed into messenger RNA. This RNA carries the genetic instructions to the ribosome, where it is translated into a chain of amino acids. Transfer RNA molecules deliver these amino acids one by one, each recognizing a precise code on the messenger strand. As the chain lengthens, it folds into its functional shape, ready to take its place in the vast machinery of the cell. From this simple pattern of reading, copying, and building, life renews itself continuously, molecule by molecule, cell by cell. Even after a protein is formed, its life continues through cycles of use and renewal. Some proteins function for only moments before being broken down and replaced, while others endure for years. Within the body, old proteins are dismantled by enzymes, and their amino acids are recycled into new ones. This cycle ensures that life remains flexible, adaptable, and efficient. Nothing is wasted. Even the smallest fragments of broken proteins find new purpose. As you rest now and imagine the quiet interior of your own body, think of the countless proteins at work within you. Enzymes folding and refolding, carrying out reactions that sustain your heartbeat. Structural proteins holding tissues together. Receptors waiting patiently for signals, each one performing its role in a silent harmony of motion and balance. You are, in a very real sense, a collection of proteins in conversation, their language one of shape, charge, and energy. And yet, for all their precision, proteins also embody fragility. When they lose their structure, a process known as denaturation, they can no longer perform their function. Heat, acidity, or imbalance can cause their delicate folds to unravel. This is why a fever can be dangerous, or why cooking changes the texture of an egg. The proteins within have unfolded, their careful architecture undone. Still, in the living body, systems exist to repair and replace them, maintaining the steady rhythm of renewal that life depends upon. Proteins, then, are the craftsmen of the cell, builders of walls and pathways, sculptors of form, catalysts of transformation. They embody the essence of life's adaptability and precision, translating the code of DNA into action. Every heartbeat, every breath, every quiet thought relies upon their patient work. As you drift deeper into rest, imagine these molecules continuing their labor, folding and unfolding like origami in water, shaping the invisible structures that sustain you. They ask for nothing. They make no sound, yet through their endless dedication, life endures. 7. Enzymes, catalysts of calm reactions. In the quiet heart of every living cell, countless chemical reactions take place each second. Molecules meet, transform, and separate again in an endless cycle that sustains life. Yet left on their own, these reactions would unfold far too slowly for survival. The conversion of nutrients into energy, the repair of damaged tissue, the copying of genetic material, all of these processes would crawl forward at a pace that could never keep up with the demands of living systems. What allows life to move swiftly yet gracefully through its complex chemistry are enzymes, nature's silent catalysts. They are the gentle accelerators of biological reactions, ensuring that the flow of energy within cells remains smooth and balanced. An enzyme is a type of protein, but one with a very particular talent. While most proteins form structures or carry signals, enzymes facilitate transformation. They make it easier for molecules to interact, breaking old bonds and forming new ones with remarkable speed and precision. They do this not by adding energy to the system, but by lowering what is known as the activation energy, the small barrier that every chemical reaction must overcome. Without enzymes, many of the reactions essential to life would take years to complete. With them, these same reactions occur in fractions of a second, all without heat, force, or disruption. It is chemistry performed in near silence. Each enzyme is exquisitely shaped for its purpose. Within its folded structure lies a small region known as the active site, a pocket perfectly suited to bind the specific molecules it acts upon. These molecules, called substrates, fit into the enzyme like a key in a lock, held in place by gentle interactions between their atoms. Once bound, the enzyme encourages the reaction to proceed, twisting bonds, aligning groups, or providing a microenvironment that favors change. When the reaction is complete, the products are released, and the enzyme remains unchanged, ready to assist again. It is a process of constant renewal, efficient and unending. This specificity gives enzymes their power. Each one recognizes only certain substrates, ignoring all others. A single cell may contain thousands of different enzymes, each dedicated to a distinct reaction. Some enzymes break down large molecules into smaller pieces. Others link small molecules together to build new compounds. This division of labor allows the cell's chemistry to proceed in perfect coordination, with no confusion or interference. Enzymes are, in essence, the caretakers of order in a world of molecular chaos. One of the simplest examples of enzyme action occurs in the mouth, where saliva contains an enzyme called amylase. As food is chewed, amylase begins breaking long chains of starch into smaller sugars, a process that continues as the food travels through the digestive system. Later, in the stomach and intestines, other enzymes take over proteases, cut apart proteins, lipases, dissolve fats, and maltase finishes the conversion of starch into glucose. These transformations release the energy stored in food, allowing it to be absorbed and used by the body. Even as we rest or sleep, enzymes continue their quiet work, maintaining the body's internal processes without pause. The activity of enzymes is sensitive and finely tuned. Temperature, pH, and the presence of certain molecules can all influence their behavior. Most enzymes function best within narrow conditions: a slightly warm temperature, a balanced acidity, a gentle environment much like the one maintained in living tissues. Too much heat can cause an enzyme to lose its shape, a process known as denaturation. When this happens, the enzyme's active site collapses and its function disappears. This is why high fever can disrupt metabolism, or why cooking changes the nature of food. The enzymes that once guided reactions have been undone. Still, within their proper range, enzymes are astonishingly efficient. Some can increase the rate of a reaction by factors of millions or even billions. A reaction that would take centuries in a test tube may occur in seconds inside a cell. The speed of these processes allows organisms to adapt to changing conditions instantly, to respond to light, hunger, or stress without delay. In a sense, enzymes are timekeepers of life, ensuring that everything unfolds at just the right moment, neither too fast nor too slow. Beyond digestion and metabolism, enzymes govern nearly every process within the body. They copy DNA during cell division, repair damage to genetic material, and control the production of hormones. They help muscles contract and nerves transmit signals. Even the color of a leaf or the rhythm of a heartbeat depends on enzymes at work. In plants, for instance, enzymes capture the energy of sunlight and transform it into sugars through photosynthesis. In humans, enzymes manage respiration, converting oxygen and nutrients into the energy that powers each breath. Without them, the entire flow of biochemistry would come to a standstill. Many enzymes require small helper molecules known as cofactors or coenzymes to function. These companions may be metal ions such as zinc or magnesium, or organic molecules derived from vitamins. Together, the enzyme and its cofactor form a partnership, each enabling the other to perform roles that would be impossible alone. When vitamin levels fall too low, enzyme activity suffers, leading to fatigue and imbalance. In this way, even the smallest nutrients play part in maintaining the harmony of the body's molecular machinery. Enzymes also act as regulators, allowing cells to control their internal chemistry with exquisite precision. Some enzymes are activated only when needed, while others are inhibited by the very products they create, a form of feedback that prevents excess. This self-regulation ensures that resources are used efficiently and that balance is maintained. It is a quiet intelligence built into the chemistry of life, requiring no conscious control, no external guidance. The system sustains itself naturally, following patterns that have evolved over billions of years. In the larger cycle of nature, enzymes extend their influence far beyond individual organisms. In the soil, enzymes produced by microbes break down fallen leaves, releasing nutrients back into the earth. In the ocean, enzymes within plankton transform dissolved compounds into the raw materials for new growth. Even in the decay of once living matter, enzymes continue their work, ensuring that nothing is wasted. Through their constant action, energy and elements flow endlessly from one form to another, weaving together all life in a seamless web. To contemplate enzymes is to see the elegance of nature's efficiency. They perform with no effort, powered by no external energy other than the thermal motion inherent in molecules. Their perfection lies not in complexity, but in harmony, the alignment of form and function so precise that each reaction happens exactly when and where it should. Every cell, every breath, every flicker of thought depends upon this invisible choreography of catalysts. Even now, as your body rests and your breathing slows, enzymes continue their ancient work. They rebuild tissues, recycle molecules, and maintain balance within your cells. Each heartbeat sends them coursing through your bloodstream, silent passengers in the flow of life. The food you have eaten today is still being transformed into energy through their guidance. And as you sleep, enzymes will help convert that energy into restoration and renewal. When viewed in this light, enzymes become more than chemical entities. They are symbols of life's quiet persistence. They embody the principle that great power can exist in subtlety, that transformation need not be violent or abrupt. Their work is gentle, constant, and sustaining. Within their microscopic realm, they turn potential into motion, possibility into being, chaos into order. So, as you imagine the calm depths of the molecular world, picture the enzymes at work, billions of tiny sculptors, shaping the flow of reactions with infinite care. They ask for nothing, consume nothing of themselves, and yet make everything possible. In their endless patience lies the rhythm of life itself, the slow and steady pulse of creation that has continued unbroken since the first cell came into being. And as that rhythm carries on inside you now, remember that even in stillness, life never stops moving. Its catalysts continue their quiet dance, turning the invisible gears of existence, one serene reaction at a time. 8. Nucleic acids, the language of life. In the quiet center of every living cell lies a story, one written not in ink or sound, but in patterns of molecules. This story contains all the instructions required to build, maintain, and renew the body. It is a script older than any human word, passed down through generations of organisms across billions of years. The molecules that carry this information are called nucleic acids, and through them, life speaks to itself. They are the language of existence, the keepers of memory, the code that connects every living thing to the dawn of biology. There are two main types of nucleic acids: deoxyribonucleic acid, known as DNA, and ribonucleic acid, or RNA. Though they differ slightly in structure and purpose, together they form the foundation of heredity and function. DNA holds the genetic blueprint, the instructions for building proteins and organizing the body's structure. RNA acts as the messenger and interpreter, reading the code and guiding the process by which proteins are made. Every living organism, from a single bacterium to the most complex animal, depends on this partnership. Without nucleic acids, there would be no inheritance, no growth, and no continuity of life. The structure of DNA is one of nature's most elegant designs. Each molecule is composed of two long chains, or strands, that twist around one another to form a double helix, a spiral staircase made of atoms. Each strand is built from repeating units called nucleotides. A nucleotide consists of three parts: a sugar molecule, a phosphate group, and a nitrogen-containing base. It is the sequence of these bases that encodes the genetic information. There are four types of bases in DNA: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. They pair together in a precise and complementary fashion: adenine always with thymine, and cytosine always with guanine. These base pairs form the rungs of the helix, held together by delicate hydrogen bonds. The result is a molecule both stable and flexible, capable of carrying vast amounts of information within its slender shape. The beauty of DNA lies not only in its form, but in its function. The order of its bases along the strand acts as a biological alphabet, spelling out the instructions for every protein the organism can make. A segment of DNA that contains the code for a specific protein is called a gene. In humans, there are roughly 20,000 such genes, each one a unique sequence of nucleotides. Together, they form the genome, the complete set of genetic information that defines the organism. Yet even this complex system follows a simple logic, a pattern of chemical letters that can be read, copied, and translated into the living fabric of the body. The process by which DNA transmits its information is both subtle and profound. When a cell divides, the double helix unwinds, and each strand serves as a template for the creation of a new partner. Special enzymes move along the open strands, adding complementary nucleotides in sequence. Adenine pairs with thymine, cytosine with guanine. In this way, the molecule is duplicated precisely, ensuring that each new cell receives an identical copy of the genetic code. The fidelity of this replication is astonishing, with only one error occurring in billions of nucleotides copied. Even those rare mistakes, known as mutations, are often corrected by other enzymes. Life has evolved to preserve its message with extraordinary care. Still, some mutations persist, and through them, nature changes its tune ever so slightly. These small variations in the DNA sequence can lead to new traits, a difference in color, shape, or function. Over time, such changes accumulate, driving evolution. The diversity of life on Earth is, at its molecular core, the product of this quiet process of mutation and selection. DNA does not only store the past, it writes the future, one nucleotide at a time. While DNA serves as the library of life's instructions, RNA acts as the reader, carrying the words from the library to the workshop of the cell. The structure of RNA is similar to DNA, but with key differences. It consists of a single strand rather than a double helix, and instead of thymine, it uses a related base called uracil. This slight variation allows RNA to perform tasks that DNA cannot. Messenger RNA, or mRNA, copies the code from DNA and transports it to ribosomes, where proteins are synthesized. Transfer RNA, or tRNA, brings the appropriate amino acids to the ribosome, aligning them in the correct order according to the code. Ribosomal RNA, or rRNA, forms part of the ribosome itself, helping to catalyze the formation of bonds between amino acids. Together, these types of RNA translate the silent language of nucleotides into the dynamic language of proteins. This translation is known as gene expression, the process by which information stored in DNA becomes the physical and functional components of life. It is a process of extraordinary delicacy. A gene is not always active. Its expression can be turned on or off depending on the cell's needs. In a developing embryo, for example, certain genes instruct some cells to become nerve tissue, while others become muscle or skin. In this way, the same DNA can give rise to a multitude of forms and functions, guided only by timing and environment. The regulation of gene expression is one of biology's greatest achievements, allowing complexity to emerge from simplicity. Nucleic acids also play roles beyond heredity and protein synthesis. Some RNA molecules act as enzymes themselves, catalyzing reactions within the cell. Others regulate gene activity, ensuring that the flow of information remains balanced. In viruses, RNA often serves as the genetic material entirely, carrying the instructions needed to hijack a host cell and reproduce. This adaptability shows how fundamental the structure of nucleic acids is, a design versatile enough to support the simplest and the most complex forms of life alike. The origins of nucleic acids trace back to Earth's earliest days. Long before cells existed, the first self-replicating molecules are believed to have been forms of RNA. Scientists call this the RNA world hypothesis. The idea that RNA once carried both genetic information and catalytic function, acting as the ancestor of modern DNA and proteins. Over time, as life became more organized, DNA took on the role of long-term storage, more stable and less prone to damage, while proteins assumed most catalytic duties. Yet the whisper of that ancient world remains within us. Each time a strand of RNA copies a gene or a ribosome builds a protein, it reenacts a process that began billions of years ago in the quiet waters of an early Earth. The scale of this molecular language is astonishing. In a single human cell, the DNA is nearly 2 meters long if uncoiled, yet it is packed so precisely that it fits within a nucleus invisible to the naked eye. The entire sequence, composed of roughly 3 billion base pairs, forms a message written in a 4-letter code, repeated in endless combinations. From that code arises the color of your eyes, the sound of your voice, the rhythm of your heartbeat. It determines not only what you are, but how your body functions moment to moment. And yet, within its structure lies something universal, the same molecular alphabet found in the simplest microbe, in the leaves of trees, in the wings of birds, and in the cells of your own hand. To reflect on nucleic acids is to glimpse the unity of life. Across all species, the same chemical logic governs inheritance and transformation. The DNA of a flower and that of a human are written in the same letters, differing only in sequence. This shared language speaks of common ancestry, of an unbroken chain linking all living beings through time. It is humbling to realize that within every cell, the story of life's entire history is inscribed, a narrative written not by intention, but by the gentle persistence of molecules following natural law. As you rest, your own nucleic acids continue their ceaseless work. DNA unwinds and rewinds as cells divide. RNA transcripts are formed and translated, and proteins are built with care. Even in sleep, the body renews itself through this silent dialogue. Molecules move like words on invisible pages, repeating the story of life over and over with perfect rhythm. You are both the author and the continuation of that story, carrying within you a script that began long before memory, long before time as we know it. In this way, nucleic acids embody both permanence and flow, the stillness of information and the motion of creation. They preserve the past while making possible each new moment of existence. Their spiral form, winding endlessly upon itself, mirrors the cycles of nature, growth and decay, birth and renewal, silence and life. To listen to their story is to hear the most ancient language of all, one written in molecules, but spoken through every living thing that breathes, grows, and dreams beneath the stars. 9. Metabolism, the flow of energy, within every living organism, from the tiniest microbe drifting in a drop of water to the vast form of a blue whale moving through the ocean. There exists an unbroken flow of energy. This flow is life's quiet current, invisible yet constant, shaping every heartbeat, every breath, every flicker of movement or thought. The name for this gentle and endless transformation is metabolism, the sum of all the chemical reactions that sustain existence. To understand metabolism is to see life not as a static state, but as a ceaseless process of exchange, where energy is gathered, transformed, and released in perfect rhythm. At its most basic, metabolism is divided into two complementary pathways: catabolism and anabolism. These two are like the opposing but balanced movements of breathing, one breaking down, the other building up. Catabolism involves the breakdown of large molecules into smaller ones, releasing energy in the process. It is the body's way of extracting power from nutrients, dismantling carbohydrates, fats, and proteins into their simpler components. The energy freed from this process is then stored in molecules that can be used later. Anabolism, on the other hand, is the process of construction. It takes those smaller building blocks and uses energy to create the larger, more complex structures that form tissues, enzymes, and hormones. Together, these two sides of metabolism create a cycle of renewal, destruction, and creation, in harmony, without end. To imagine metabolism at work is to picture an unseen river flowing within you. Every cell is like a small harbor where nutrients arrive, are transformed, and sent back out as energy or structure. This river never stops moving. Even in sleep, when the body is still, the current continues, mending, replacing, and maintaining. Without it, the intricate machinery of life would falter in moments. When we eat, the process of metabolism begins its visible phase. Food enters the mouth and is broken down mechanically by chewing, then chemically by enzymes such as amylase and saliva. As digestion continues in the stomach and intestines, complex carbohydrates turn into simple sugars, proteins into amino acids, and fats into fatty acids. These smaller molecules are absorbed into the bloodstream and carried to the cells, where metabolism continues on a microscopic scale. Inside each cell, the real transformation begins, a dance of atoms and energy, orchestrated by enzymes, guided by the quiet pulse of chemical balance. The central currency of this internal economy is adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, a small molecule that stores and delivers energy wherever it is needed. When a cell requires energy to move, divide, or synthesize, it breaks one of the bonds in ATP, releasing a burst of controlled energy and converting ATP into ADP, or adenosine diphosphate. Later, through processes fueled by nutrients, ADP is rebuilt into ATP again, completing the cycle. It is a perfect system of exchange, endlessly renewable, endlessly responsive. Every heartbeat, every impulse in the brain, every act of healing depends upon this invisible circuit of energy transfer. At the core of catabolic metabolism lies cellular respiration, the process by which the energy stored in food molecules, especially glucose, is released. It begins with glycolysis, a series of reactions that occur in the fluid interior of the cell. During glycolysis, a molecule of glucose, made of 6 carbon atoms, is broken into 2 smaller molecules, called pyruvate. This process releases a small amount of energy and a few molecules of ATP. What remains still holds much potential, waiting to be unlocked. If oxygen is available, the journey continues into the mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses of the cell. Here, the pyruvate is further processed in the citric acid cycle, also known as the Krebs cycle. Within this cycle, carbon compounds are stripped of electrons, releasing carbon dioxide as a byproduct, the same gas we exhale with each breath. The captured electrons are then carried along an electron transport chain, a series of molecular steps embedded in the mitochondrial membrane. As electrons pass from one molecule to another, their energy drives the production of large amounts of ATP. This process, oxidative phosphorylation, is one of life's most efficient energy systems. It allows organisms to derive great quantities of usable energy from food with minimal waste. The byproducts of this elegant system are simple: carbon dioxide and water. The carbon dioxide returns to the atmosphere through exhalation, where plants will later absorb it for photosynthesis, completing the grand exchange of nature. The water formed during respiration contributes to the body's hydration and balance. In this way, metabolism is not just an internal process, but part of a larger planetary rhythm, one that connects breathing, eating, and the cycles of Earth itself. In times when oxygen is scarce, cells can still generate energy through a process called anaerobic respiration or fermentation. Though less efficient, it allows life to persist even in low oxygen conditions. In human muscles, for instance, when exertion exceeds oxygen supply, glucose is converted into lactic acid, providing a short burst of energy. Later, when oxygen returns, the lactic acid is processed and cleared, restoring balance. In microorganisms like yeast, fermentation produces alcohol and carbon dioxide, a process humans have long harnessed to bake bread and brew drinks. Thus, even in limitation, metabolism finds a way to continue, quietly adapting to the conditions around it. Anabolism, the constructive counterpart, uses the energy produced by catabolism to build. It assembles amino acids into proteins, links simple sugars into complex carbohydrates, and joins fatty acids into lipids. Through anabolism, the body grows, heals, and renews itself. The same processes that form tissues in childhood remain active throughout life, constantly replacing old cells with new ones. Even now, as you rest, anabolic reactions are at work, repairing muscle fibers, regenerating skin, strengthening bones. Every breath you take supports this ongoing creation, supplying the oxygen and nutrients that fuel it. The balance between anabolism and catabolism is essential. When they are in harmony, the body remains steady, neither wasting energy nor storing too much. Hormones act as the quiet conductors of this balance. Insulin encourages anabolism, guiding cells to store nutrients and build tissues. Glucagon and adrenaline favor catabolism, mobilizing energy when it is needed. Thyroid hormones set the pace of metabolism overall, determining how quickly or slowly energy flows through the body. This coordination is so precise that even small changes can influence how we feel. Our warmth, alertness, appetite, and calm, all shaped by the unseen chemistry within. At the cellular level, metabolism is deeply connected to homeostasis, the steady internal environment that life depends upon. As nutrients flow in and wastes flow out, enzymes and signaling molecules monitor every fluctuation, adjusting reactions to keep equilibrium. When energy is plentiful, pathways slow. When it is scarce, they accelerate. This adaptability allows living systems to survive in changing conditions. Whether facing hunger, cold, or stress, metabolism finds a new balance, preserving life's continuity. Metabolism extends beyond individual organisms, linking all forms of life through cycles of energy and matter. The glucose that fuels your body may once have been formed in a leaf by photosynthesis. The carbon you exhale may one day nourish a plant. The fat stored in an animal becomes energy for a predator, which in turn returns its nutrients to the soil after death. Through these exchanges, the boundary between living and non-living blurs. The atoms within you have belonged to countless other beings before a leaf, a bird, a grain of soil. Metabolism, seen in this light, is the conversation that life holds with the universe. Even the smallest flicker of thought requires metabolic energy. Every neuron in the brain depends on a constant supply of glucose and oxygen. When we dream, the same energy that once moved through sunlight and leaf and fruit now powers the electrical patterns of the mind. This gentle chain of transformation, light to sugar, sugar to ATP, ATP to consciousness, reveals how deeply metabolism connects the physical with the intangible. It is a reminder that thought, too, is a form of energy flow. And as your body rests, metabolism continues without pause. Cells repair themselves, enzymes work in silence, and the slow, rhythmic exchange of molecules goes on. Energy that once came from distant sunlight now moves within you, feeding the quiet renewal that sleep allows. In the morning, when you awaken and take your first conscious breath, the same processes will continue seamlessly, as they always have, unseen, perfect, and patient. Metabolism is life's great current, the silent motion that joins all things. It moves through the smallest cell and across the vast web of nature, connecting the living and the lifeless, the visible and the unseen. To live is to flow within this current, to take in, to transform, and to give back. And in that flow, there is peace, for nothing is lost, only changed, carried onward in the endless rhythm of energy that began long before life and will continue long after it, soft as breath, steady as time. 10. ATP, the energy bridge. Within the vast and intricate chemistry of life, there exists a single molecule that acts as a universal thread, weaving together every reaction, every heartbeat, every spark of movement. That molecule is adenosine triphosphate, more gently known as ATP. It is the quiet messenger of energy, the bridge between the breaking down of nutrients and the creation of life's endless forms. Without it, no muscle could contract, no nerve could send a signal, and no cell could perform its silent work. ATP is the currency of vitality, exchanged constantly and invisibly, keeping the flow of life unbroken from moment to moment. To understand ATP, it helps to imagine energy as a flowing river that must be captured and carried. Nutrients, such as glucose, fats, and proteins, contain energy locked within their chemical bonds. Through the slow, controlled burn of metabolism, this energy is released not as flame or heat, but as the gentle potential for work. Yet energy, in its raw form, is too diffuse to be used directly. It must be gathered and packaged into a form that the body can easily spend and replace. ATP is that form. It is a molecule perfectly designed for both storage and release, for giving and receiving, for connecting energy's source to its destination. At the molecular level, ATP is composed of three main parts: a nitrogen-containing base called adenine, a sugar called ribose, and a chain of three phosphate groups attached in a line. The bonds that link these phosphate groups, especially the last two, are high in potential energy. When one of these bonds is broken, typically the bond connecting the final phosphate, a small but precise burst of energy is released. The molecule then becomes adenosine diphosphate, or ADP, which can later be rebuilt into ATP when energy becomes available again. This simple, reversible transformation lies at the heart of all biological processes. It is as if life itself runs on the rhythm of one molecule breaking and reforming, endlessly, quietly, efficiently. Every living cell, whether in a leaf, a microbe, or the human body, depends on this same principle. In the mitochondria, the cellular power plant's nutrients are broken down through processes such as glycolysis and the citric acid cycle. As electrons move through the electron transport chain, the energy they release drives the synthesis of ATP. Oxygen, drawn in with each breath, serves as the final acceptor in this chain, allowing the system to continue without interruption. The result is a steady supply of ATP, flowing through the cell like a current, ready to be used wherever energy is needed. The demand for ATP is constant and immense. A single human cell may contain millions of ATP molecules at any given moment, yet each one lasts only a few seconds before being used and replaced. The entire body recycles its weight in ATP every day, a staggering turnover that speaks to the molecule's central importance. Still, the system never falters. Every moment, ATP is formed, used, and formed again, maintaining the delicate equilibrium that sustains life. In the body, ATP fuels every form of movement, from the contraction of skeletal muscles to the subtle beating of cilia in the respiratory tract. When you lift a hand, walk a step, or draw a breath, ATP molecules are being split apart, their energy released to power the motion. Inside each muscle cell, special proteins, actin and myosin, interact like sliding threads, and ATP provides the energy that allows them to pull and release in rhythmic succession. Even the smallest twitch of a finger or the slow rise and fall of the chest depends upon the continuous expenditure of this molecular energy. But ATP does far more than drive motion. It powers the active transport of substances across cell membranes, allowing cells to take in nutrients and expel waste. It fuels the synthesis of macromolecules such as proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids, the very structures that make up the cell. It enables the transmission of nerve impulses by maintaining the delicate balance of ions across neuron membranes. It even plays a role in regulating chemical signals, activating enzymes, and controlling reactions throughout the body. In every part of life's chemistry, ATP serves as both servant and master, a molecule of humble size but infinite reach. The creation of ATP itself is a masterpiece of molecular design. Within the mitochondria, a specialized enzyme called ATP synthase acts as a microscopic turbine. As electrons pass through the membrane, they create a flow of protons, tiny charged particles that move through this enzyme. The movement spins its structure like a wheel, driving the physical addition of a phosphate group to ADP to form new ATP. Each turn of this invisible wheel produces another molecule of life's energy currency. This process, called oxidative phosphorylation, occurs unceasingly within your cells, billions of times each second. Without it, the lights of metabolism would go out within moments. In plants, ATP is also formed through a parallel process during photosynthesis. Within the green chloroplasts, light from the sun energizes electrons, creating a flow similar to that in mitochondria. The energy from sunlight is captured and stored in ATP, which the plant then uses to build sugars from carbon dioxide and water. These sugars, in turn, become the source of energy for animals and humans, whose cells break them down once more to generate ATP. Thus, the molecule acts as a bridge, not only within an organism, but across all life, connecting sunlight to leaf, leaf to food, food to motion. Through ATP, the energy of the sun becomes the pulse of living beings. When energy is abundant, ATP is used not only for immediate work, but also to drive the synthesis of storage molecules like glycogen and fat, ensuring that reserves are available when needed. During rest or sleep, the pace of ATP production slows, yet it never stops. Even in stillness, the body continues its unseen labor, repairing, maintaining, adjusting. Enzymes powered by ATP replace damaged proteins, transport ions across membranes, and support the calm, constant heartbeat that sustains life. What is remarkable about ATP is how seamlessly it integrates with every level of existence. It connects the molecular to the organismal, the microscopic to the conscious, the energy that powers the human mind, the thoughts that wander through dreams, the flicker of emotion that passes through the heart, all trace back to the breaking of a single chemical bond. This is life reduced to its essence, the transformation of potential energy into motion, thought, and renewal, guided by the subtle grace of molecules. There is a certain poetry in knowing that every movement, every heartbeat, every moment of rest depends on the same small reaction, a phosphate bond breaking, releasing energy, and then reforming. It is the quiet rhythm beneath the rhythm, a molecular heartbeat that mirrors the larger pulse of existence. ATP does not shout its presence. It simply acts, endlessly and faithfully, allowing all other things to happen. If you could see within your own cells, you would find this molecule everywhere, flickering in and out of existence. Each second, millions are born and spent, their energy released in tiny increments that together sustain the miracle of life. The warmth of your body, the steadiness of your breath, the softness of your sleep, all are fed by ATP's tireless work. Even now, as your body rests, the molecules continue to turn, breaking and reforming their bonds, carrying energy like light across the inner landscape of your being. And so, ATP stands as a bridge between the food we eat and the life we live, between the stillness of molecules and the movement of existence. It is the link between the invisible and the tangible, between chemistry and consciousness. In its endless cycle of release and renewal, we find the rhythm of life itself, quiet, persistent, eternal. 11. Cellular respiration, breathing at the molecular level. Every living being breathes, though not always in ways visible to the eye. A tree breathes through the gentle exchange of gases within its leaves. A whale takes in air before diving into the depths. Even the smallest cell, hidden beyond the reach of sight, breathes in its own way, not through lungs or gills, but through the silent exchange of molecules. This process is known as cellular respiration, the invisible rhythm that keeps life alive. It is the way cells harvest energy from the food we eat and the oxygen we breathe, transforming them into the strength that moves muscles, the warmth that sustains body temperature, and the clarity that fuels the mind. Cellular respiration is, in essence, the molecular form of breathing, quiet, constant, and essential. At its heart, this process is a conversation between matter and energy. Nutrients such as glucose carry within them the stored sunlight captured by plants during photosynthesis. Oxygen, drawn in with every breath, acts as a partner in unlocking that stored energy. Together, they enter a cycle of reactions that release energy gently, step by step, avoiding the destructive burst that would occur if all the energy were released at once. The product of this calm exchange is adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the universal energy currency that powers all living systems. The waste, simple and harmless, is water and carbon dioxide, the same elements returned to nature through each exhaled breath. The process begins with glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm, the fluid interior of the cell. The word means sugar splitting, and that is precisely what happens. A single molecule of glucose, composed of 6 carbon atoms, is divided into 2 molecules of pyruvate, each containing 3 carbons. This step requires the investment of a small amount of energy, but quickly yields a greater return, a few molecules of ATP, and a pair of high-energy electrons carried by special molecules called NADH. These electrons will soon play a crucial role, but for now, they wait, stored energy in chemical form. If oxygen is not available, some cells can rely solely on glycolysis for energy. This is the foundation of anaerobic respiration, a process that allows life to persist even in oxygen-poor environments. In humans, when muscles are pushed to their limits during intense activity, oxygen levels can drop temporarily. The body then turns to this alternate pathway, converting pyruvate into lactic acid and extracting a small amount of energy in the process. The lactic acid builds up, creating the familiar ache of exertion until oxygen returns and normal respiration resumes. In other organisms, such as yeast, anaerobic respiration takes another form, producing alcohol and carbon dioxide instead. This simple fermentation process has long been harnessed by humans to create bread and wine, reminders that even our daily sustenance echoes the chemistry of cells. When oxygen is present, however, the journey of respiration continues deeper into the mitochondria, the organelles often called the powerhouses of the cell. Within these small, folded structures, pyruvate from glycolysis is converted into a molecule called acetyl-CoA, which then enters the citric acid cycle, also known as the Krebs cycle. Here, the carbon atoms from the original glucose are gradually stripped away, released as carbon dioxide. Each turn of this cycle generates additional molecules of NADH and another carrier called FADH2, both rich in energetic electrons. A small amount of ATP is produced directly, but the real power lies in the electrons now held by these carriers. The final stage of cellular respiration, and the most productive, is the electron transport chain. This occurs along the inner membrane of the mitochondrion, a structure intricately folded to maximize surface area. Here, the electrons from NADH and FADH2 are passed from one protein complex to another, moving step by step down a chain of reactions. With each transfer, energy is released in tiny increments, used to pump protons across the membrane and create an electrochemical gradient. This gradient is a kind of stored potential, a gentle tension, like water behind a dam ready to be released. At the end of the chain sits oxygen, waiting silently. When the electrons reach it, they combine with the protons to form water, the simplest and purest of molecules. This moment completes the cycle, allowing the process to continue without interruption. Without oxygen to accept those electrons, the entire chain would stop, and energy production would halt. This is why oxygen is so vital, why every breath we take feeds the quiet fire within. As the protons flow back across the membrane through an enzyme called ATP synthase, the stored potential energy is finally transformed into usable form. The enzyme rotates like a microscopic turbine, adding phosphate groups to ADP molecules and creating ATP, the molecule that powers all cellular activity. This elegant machinery operates endlessly, producing vast amounts of ATP each second. In the space of a single heartbeat, millions of these molecular turbines have turned, quietly recharging the energy stores that keep life in motion. What makes this process remarkable is not only its efficiency, but its gentleness. The combustion of fuel in a flame releases energy in a single violent burst. Yet the combustion within the cell, the oxidation of glucose, releases energy gradually, in steps so small that the cell can capture almost all of it. This is the genius of life's chemistry. Energy, tamed and directed, not wasted. The same process that would produce destructive heat in open air instead becomes the calm and measured source of vitality within the body. Every living creature that uses oxygen shares this process. Whether it is a human being walking along a path, a bird gliding over the ocean, or a bacterium thriving in a droplet of dew, the pattern is the same. The molecules may differ slightly, the rates may vary, but the principle is universal. It is one of the few constants of biology, a thread of shared function that ties all forms of life together. In every corner of the earth where oxygen flows, respiration follows, unseen but perpetual. Even plants, which release oxygen through photosynthesis, rely on respiration in their own cells. At night, when sunlight fades and photosynthesis rests, their mitochondria continue to work, consuming oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide, just as animals do. In this way, respiration completes the circle begun by photosynthesis. The oxygen exhaled by leaves is later breathed in by animals, while the carbon dioxide exhaled by animals is absorbed once again by plants. Through this exchange, the breath of all life is shared, a quiet communion of gases between green and flesh. To reflect on cellular respiration is to glimpse the profound unity between body and breath, chemistry and being. Each inhale is not merely air filling lungs, but the first step in a chain of reactions that stretches into the depths of every cell. Each exhale is the final whisper of that same process, the release of carbon that once came from sunlight. This cycle continues moment after moment, from the first breath of birth to the last. It is the silent rhythm that underlies existence, a steady pulse beneath thought and motion. Even now, as you sit or lie still, this process continues within you. Glucose flows through your blood, oxygen diffuses into your cells, and deep inside your mitochondria, electrons travel their ancient path. With every molecule of oxygen you take in, a small spark of life is renewed. The warmth you feel, the calm expansion of your chest, the peace of your body at rest all arise from the slow, measured dance of cellular respiration. In the end, to breathe is to participate in the most universal act of all, the exchange of energy between the living and the world around them. The air that sustains you has passed through countless lungs, leaves, and oceans before reaching you. The carbon you exhale will one day nourish new life. Through respiration, we are all joined in a single, continuous breath, one that began long before us and will continue long after. Steady, silent, eternal. 12. Photosynthesis. Capturing light. If respiration is life's quiet exhalation, photosynthesis is its deep and endless inhale. It is through this process that light becomes life, that the energy of the sun, traveling across the emptiness of space, finds its way into the fabric of living things. Every leaf, every blade of grass, every green algae drifting in a sunlit pond participates in this transformation. Photosynthesis is the reason the world is clothed in green, the reason air is rich in oxygen, and the reason all creatures, directly or indirectly, are nourished. It is the act of catching light and turning it into something tangible, food, fuel, and the energy that sustains all existence. To imagine photosynthesis, one must picture the sunlight falling gently upon a leaf. The surface of that leaf, though smooth to the eye, is covered with countless microscopic openings called stomata. Through these pores, carbon dioxide from the air enters the leaf, while water, drawn upward from the roots, flows through its veins. Inside each cell of the leaf are tiny green structures called chloroplasts, miniature laboratories of life, filled with light-absorbing pigments. Chief among these pigments is chlorophyll, the molecule that gives plants their color and their power to capture sunlight. When sunlight strikes chlorophyll, its photons, tiny packets of energy, excite electrons within the pigment's atoms. This is the first spark of photosynthesis, the moment when energy from the sun becomes energy of matter. These excited electrons begin to move, passed from one molecule to another in a chain of reactions that resembles a gentle current. As they flow, they release energy that is used to split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen, light and pure, escapes into the air through the stomata, while the hydrogen remains, its energy stored and ready to be used. Every breath of air we take owes its existence to this release, the byproduct of sunlight meeting water within the quiet heart of a leaf. This first stage of photosynthesis, known as the light-dependent reactions, takes place in the thylakoid membranes of the chloroplasts. Here, Sunlight's energy is captured and converted into chemical forms, molecules of ATP and NADPH, which serve as carriers of energy and electrons. These molecules, in turn, fuel the next stage, where the energy of light is used to create the molecules of life. It is as if the leaf has taken sunlight and transformed it into a kind of universal currency, stored safely for later use. Once this light-driven phase is complete, the process moves into its second stage, the light-independent reactions, or the Calvin cycle. This part occurs in the fluid interior of the chloroplast, called the stroma, where the stored energy from ATP and NADPH is used to fix carbon dioxide into organic form. Through a series of enzyme-guided steps, the carbon atoms from the air are combined with hydrogen from water to form simple sugars, such as glucose. This is the true miracle of photosynthesis, becoming food. The carbon that will one day form the body of a tree, a bird, or a human begins as invisible gas, pulled from the sky and assembled into substance. The simplicity of this process conceals its importance. Each year, the world's plants, algae, and photosynthetic bacteria produce hundreds of billions of tons of organic matter and oxygen through photosynthesis. This continuous production renews the air, replenishes food supplies, and maintains the balance of gases in the atmosphere. Without it, oxygen would slowly disappear, and all aerobic life, every creature that breathes, would fade away. The green world is, in truth, the planet's lungs, exhaling the oxygen that all others inhale. The relationship between photosynthesis and respiration forms one of nature's most perfect cycles. In photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water combine to form glucose and oxygen. In respiration, those same products are used to release the stored energy, returning carbon dioxide and water to the atmosphere. One process captures energy and builds, the other releases energy and sustains. Together, they create an unbroken rhythm, a pulse of matter and energy that flows through every living thing. When we eat, we are consuming the results of photosynthesis, the captured sunlight stored in plant tissue. When we breathe, we give back the carbon that will one day be used again to make new life. It is a conversation between green and flesh, between earth and air. Chlorophyll, the molecule at the center of this story, is remarkable not only for what it does, but for how it does it. Its structure is perfectly suited to absorb light in the blue and red parts of the spectrum, reflecting green in the process. It contains magnesium at its core, a metal atom that plays a vital role in capturing light's energy. When photons strike it, the electrons within this molecule jump to higher energy levels, initiating the reactions that follow. In this sense, chlorophyll acts as the translator between the worlds of light and matter. The energy that begins as sunlight is transformed into motion of electrons, then into the bonds of molecules, and finally into the energy that moves through our own bodies. Different forms of chlorophyll exist across species, allowing photosynthesis to occur in environments ranging from shallow ponds to deep-sea algae where sunlight is scarce. Other pigments, such as carotenoids, assist in this process, capturing wavelengths that chlorophyll cannot. Together, they form a network of light harvesters, ensuring that as much sunlight as possible is converted into chemical energy. This adaptability has allowed photosynthesis to flourish in almost every corner of the Earth, shaping the atmosphere and supporting the vast diversity of life we see today. The efficiency and quiet power of photosynthesis are humbling. In a single leaf, thousands of chemical reactions occur each second, all coordinated, all smooth, converting sunlight into sugar without noise or waste. The process is gentle, releasing oxygen slowly, absorbing carbon patiently, growing by fractions of millimeters each day. Over time, these small acts of chemistry build forests, feed oceans, and sustain civilizations. Each tree in a forest, each patch of moss on a stone, is a living testament to the steady patience of photosynthesis, a process that has continued unbroken for over 3 billion years. Even in the night, when sunlight fades, photosynthesis continues its rhythm indirectly. The sugars formed during the day are used to keep the plant alive until dawn returns. In this darkness, respiration takes its place, consuming some of the stored energy, but never breaking the cycle. The arrival of morning light simply renews the process, turning the balance once more toward growth. Life's pulse, though slowed, never stops. For us, photosynthesis is both a distant and intimate phenomenon. The food on our plates, the air in our lungs, the wood of our homes, all trace their origin back to the silent labor of green life. Even the fossil fuels that power modern civilization were once ancient plants that captured sunlight long ago. When burned, they release the same energy the plants once gathered, returning carbon to the atmosphere in a grand cycle of exchange. Every form of energy that sustains humanity, whether from food, wood, or sunlight itself, ultimately comes from this one process, the capture of light by living matter. To contemplate photosynthesis is to glimpse the poetry of existence. It is the transformation of the intangible into the tangible, of light into life. The sunlight that warms the skin today once fell upon leaves millions of years ago, and its energy still moves through us in every heartbeat. Every breath of oxygen we take carries the memory of a leaf opening to the sun, and every exhale of carbon dioxide is a gift returned to that same source. In the stillness of evening, when the last rays of sunlight fade across the sky, the work continues quietly in the green world. Leaves rest but do not sleep, roots drink, and in the dark interiors of cells, the chemistry of life hums on. The sun will rise again, and the world will awaken to its light. The same energy that traveled across space will once again find its way into the smallest of leaves, into the smallest of cells, into the smallest spark of life. And through photosynthesis, that light will become part of everything that lives, breathes, and dreams. The eternal bond between sunlight and the living world. 13. Hormones and signals. Within the vast stillness of the human body, where countless molecules move in silence, there exists an invisible network of communication, more intricate than any spoken language. It does not use words or sounds, but tiny messengers carried by the blood and received by the waiting structures of cells. These messengers are hormones, the chemical signals that allow one part of the body to speak to another, ensuring that the whole remains balanced and aware. Through them, the brain speaks to the heart, the glands to the organs, and the cells to one another. This molecular communication forms the quiet dialogue of life, a conversation that never stops, flowing smoothly beneath the surface of consciousness. To understand hormones is to understand how the body maintains harmony amid constant change. Every second, thousands of processes unfold at once: the beating of the heart, the growth of tissues, the regulation of temperature, the digestion of food. Each of these requires coordination, and hormones are the mediators that carry the messages of instruction. Unlike nerves, which transmit signals rapidly along physical connections, hormones travel through the bloodstream, carried to distant targets, where they exert their influence gently and continuously. Their effects may take seconds, minutes, or even days to manifest, but once set in motion, they shape the body's rhythm with calm precision. Hormones are produced by specialized glands scattered throughout the body, collectively known as the endocrine system. The hypothalamus and pituitary gland, nestled deep within the brain, act as central conductors, releasing signals that direct other glands to act. The thyroid governs metabolism. The adrenal glands mediate stress and energy. The pancreas balances blood sugar, and the reproductive glands sustain the continuity of life. Each gland, though distinct in location and function, contributes to the shared harmony of the body's internal world. Through these delicate pathways, even the smallest chemical message can influence the whole. A hormone begins. its journey as a whisper, a few molecules released into the bloodstream in response to a signal. Perhaps the body has sensed a drop in sugar, or a moment of danger, or the need to grow. These molecules drift through the vast rivers of blood until they find the cells that bear their specific receptors. Each receptor is shaped like a lock, and only the right hormone can fit it. When the match is made, a cascade of reactions begins inside the cell, altering its activity, instructing it to divide, to release energy, to calm, or to prepare for motion. Through this simple act of binding, the body achieves astonishing coordination. Among the most familiar of these messengers is insulin, produced by the pancreas. When the level of glucose in the blood rises after a meal, insulin signals cells to absorb the sugar and store it for later use. This quiet balancing act keeps the body nourished yet stable, preventing excess and shortage alike. When insulin's function falters, as in diabetes, the harmony of this communication breaks, reminding us how fragile and vital the system truly is. Other hormones carry messages of alertness and adaptation. The adrenal glands, perched above the kidneys, release adrenaline and cortisol in moments of stress. Adrenaline races through the bloodstream, quickening the heart, expanding the lungs, and sharpening awareness, the body's way of preparing for challenge. Cortisol sustains this response, ensuring that energy is available where it is needed most. Yet when the moment passes, other hormones arrive to restore calm, lowering heart rate, easing tension, and returning the body to balance. This gentle alternation between arousal and rest keeps life adaptable, ready to respond yet always drawn back toward peace. In another corner of the body, the thyroid gland maintains the steady tempo of metabolism. Its hormones thyroxine and triiodothyronine regulate how fast cells convert nutrients into energy. When their levels rise, the body becomes more alert, warmer, faster. When they fall, processes slow, conserving energy for times of scarcity. The thyroid listens closely to the pituitary gland, which, in turn, takes its cues from the brain. In this chain of communication, feedback loops ensure stability. If the body produces too much or too little, sensors detect the imbalance and signals adjust the flow. It is a system built on awareness and correction, one that echoes through every function of the body. The reproductive hormones add another dimension to this molecular dialogue, linking the cycles of the body to the deeper rhythms of time and reproduction. In women, estrogen and progesterone regulate the monthly cycle, preparing the body for the possibility of new life. In men, testosterone supports growth, strength, and renewal. These hormones also influence mood, energy, and emotion, intertwining physical and mental states. During adolescence, when these signals surge, the body reshapes itself under their guidance, unfolding from childhood into maturity. Later, as levels change again with age, the body adjusts once more, always finding a new equilibrium. Not all hormones act on distant organs. Some, like the local signals produced by tissues and cells, work within their immediate environment. These include molecules such as prostaglandins, which influence inflammation and healing, and growth factors, which guide the repair and renewal of tissues. Even within the brain itself, neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin act as chemical communicators, shaping thought and emotion. Though often classified separately, these signaling molecules share the same purpose: to connect, to coordinate, and to sustain the inner harmony of the body. One of the most fascinating aspects of hormonal communication is its subtle connection to emotion and state of mind. The feelings of peace after a good meal, the gentle drowsiness before sleep, the exhilaration of joy, the calm after tears, all are shaped by chemical messengers. The hormone melatonin, released by the pineal gland as daylight fades, signals the body that night has come. It lowers alertness, slows metabolism, and invites rest. As sleep begins, growth hormone rises, mending tissues and strengthening the body for the coming day. In the morning, cortisol and adrenaline return to wakefulness, lifting consciousness like the slow brightening of dawn. Even the cycle of sleep and wake, of effort and rest, is a conversation among molecules. The harmony of hormones depends not only on balance but also on timing. Too much or too little of a single messenger can disturb the whole. Modern life, with its irregular rhythms and constant stimuli, often disrupts this delicate equilibrium. Stress can keep cortisol levels elevated, dulling the body's sensitivity to other signals. Sleeplessness confuses the release of melatonin. Poor nourishment or inactivity can alter insulin's effectiveness. Yet, the body is resilient, always striving to restore balance when given the chance. A quiet testament to its wisdom and adaptability. At the deepest level, hormonal communication shows us that life's unity extends beyond the boundaries of the visible. The same principles govern the smallest cell and the largest organism. Each part of the system depends on every other, responding to changes with sensitivity and grace. The flow of hormones is not random. It is an ancient language written in chemistry, refined over eons to maintain harmony amid change. Even now, within you, this language continues. Molecules move through your blood in gentle currents, carrying instructions shaped by light, emotion, and need. Some encourage alertness, others whisper of rest. Some prepare the body to grow, others to heal. As you breathe slowly, the balance shifts, adrenaline fading, endorphins rising, melatonin beginning its calm ascent. The body listens to itself, adjusts, and settles into quiet equilibrium. To reflect on hormones is to realize that communication is the essence of life. Every heartbeat is a message, every breath a signal, every drop of blood a carrier of instruction. The body, in its complexity, is never chaotic. It is a system of infinite conversations, each one purposeful, each one alive. In the hush of night, as you drift toward sleep, this molecular dialogue continues steady, measured, unending, a chorus of chemistry, singing softly, the ancient song of balance. 14. Biochemical balance, homeostasis. Every living being, from the smallest bacterium to the most complex human, exists in a state of delicate balance. Inside, countless reactions unfold each second, chemical, electrical, and thermal, all working together in perfect quiet coordination. Yet despite the ever-changing world outside, the conditions within remain remarkably constant. The temperature stays steady, the pH remains gentle and neutral, the flow of nutrients and energy continues without chaos. This internal stability is known as homeostasis, a word that means steady state, and it represents one of the most extraordinary principles in biology. Homeostasis is not a rigid stillness, but a graceful equilibrium, a continual adjustment that allows life to persist, adapt, and thrive. To live is to exist between opposing forces. The body constantly loses heat and moisture to the world around it, yet it must remain warm and hydrated. It consumes energy and produces waste, yet it must prevent the buildup of harmful substances. It encounters change in temperature, diet, emotion, and environment, yet it continues to function as though nothing has changed. This is the quiet power of homeostasis. It is the invisible regulator, the soft intelligence that watches over every cell, guiding reactions toward balance even as conditions shift from moment to moment. At the heart of this process are feedback loops, systems of communication that detect change and gently correct it. In negative feedback, the most common form, a deviation from the normal state triggers a response that restores equilibrium. Imagine the human body as a landscape of flowing energy and matter. When something strays too far from balance, sensors within this landscape notice the change. Messages travel through the nervous and endocrine systems to the organs that can respond. Once balance is restored, the signals fade, and the system settles once again into calm. It is an endlessly self-adjusting design, the biological equivalent of a steady breath. Inhale and exhale, rise and fall, tension and release. One of the clearest examples of homeostasis is the regulation of body temperature. Humans, like many animals, are warm-blooded, meaning they maintain a constant internal temperature, regardless of the environment. Deep within the brain, in a region called the hypothalamus, tiny receptors sense even the slightest fluctuations. If the body grows too warm, the hypothalamus sends signals that cause blood vessels near the skin to widen, allowing heat to escape. Sweat glands release moisture, and as the sweat evaporates, it cools the surface of the body. If the temperature drops, the reverse occurs. Blood vessels narrow, conserving heat, and muscles begin to shiver, generating warmth through motion. In both directions, the process is automatic, silent, and precise, the molecular version of comfort seeking its own return. The regulation of blood sugar offers another glimpse into this intricate balance. After eating, glucose levels in the blood rise. The pancreas responds by releasing insulin, a hormone that signals cells to absorb glucose and store it for later. As the blood sugar falls, insulin release slows, while another hormone, glucagon, prompts the release of stored sugar back into circulation. The two hormones act like partners in a slow dance, moving together to keep energy available but never excessive. The result is a steady supply of fuel for the body's countless functions, maintained without conscious thought. Homeostasis extends to every corner of the body. The kidneys, through their quiet filtration, maintain the balance of water, salts, and acids in the blood. They adjust the concentration of urine according to need, conserving moisture in times of thirst, and releasing excess when hydration is abundant. The lungs balance oxygen and carbon dioxide, increasing or decreasing the rate of breathing to match the body's activity. The liver regulates the levels of nutrients and toxins, transforming what is harmful into harmless forms. Even within cells, enzymes monitor the balance of ions, maintaining the precise conditions necessary for chemical reactions to occur. Every organ, every molecule, plays its part in this grand equilibrium. Yet homeostasis is not only a physical process. It also extends to the emotional and mental dimensions of life. The same systems that regulate temperature and blood sugar also respond to stress, emotion, and perception. When the body senses danger, hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood the bloodstream, preparing muscles for action. The heart beats faster, the pupils widen, and energy is released for survival. Once the threat has passed, other signals arrive to calm the system. The heart slows, breathing steadies, and balance returns. Even our moods are influenced by chemical feedback. Neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine adjust feelings of contentment and motivation, keeping emotional states within a natural range. In this way, homeostasis touches not just the physical, but the very experience of being alive. What is most remarkable about homeostasis is its subtlety. It does not demand attention or announce its work. It functions continuously in the background, a quiet guardian of stability. We are often unaware of its presence until it falters. When fever strikes, when blood sugar wavers, when fatigue overcomes us, these are the moments when we notice the balance shifting. Yet, even then, the body fights gently to restore what was lost. It is resilient, designed to recover, to heal, and to learn from disruption. The steady return to normalcy after illness or stress is one of life's quiet triumphs. Homeostasis also connects every living thing on a broader scale. The balance maintained within a single cell mirrors the balance sustained within ecosystems and the planet itself. The Earth regulates temperature, carbon, and water through its own cycles of feedback, much like the body does. Forests absorb carbon dioxide, oceans distribute heat, and atmospheric patterns respond to changes in sunlight. These planetary systems, vast yet delicate, create the stable environment in which life can flourish. In a sense, the Earth, too, breathes and adjusts, maintaining its homeostasis through the interactions of air, water, and life. The concept of balance extends beyond biology into philosophy and existence itself. To live in balance is to honor the same principle that governs molecules and stars. When we rest after effort, when we breathe deeply after stress, when we eat or sleep in rhythm with need, we are aligning ourselves with the natural flow of homeostasis. It is not perfection that sustains life, but adjustment, the gentle returning to center after each shift. The body reminds us of this truth every moment, as it recalibrates and renews, finding calm between extremes. Even as you rest now, your body continues this endless work. Your heart maintains its quiet beat, neither too fast nor too slow. Your temperature holds steady. Your blood chemistry remains balanced. Your cells exchange gases and nutrients in perfect coordination. Without your awareness, trillions of small corrections are being made, all to preserve the comfort and continuity of being. You are, in every breath and heartbeat, an ecosystem of harmony. Homeostasis is life's greatest act of patience. It teaches that balance is not stillness, but movement, a constant, graceful negotiation between what is and what must be. The same principle that steadies your pulse also steadies the forests, the oceans, and the sky. It is the underlying calm of existence, the quiet assurance that even amid change, there is order. So, as the body relaxes and the mind drifts toward sleep, remember that this balance continues within you, and around you, the silent rhythm of life finding its way, again and again, back to peace. 15. The chemistry of sleep and renewal. In the quiet hours of night, when the world softens and movement slows, the body begins one of its most mysterious and vital processes. Sleep is not simply a pause in activity, nor an absence of awareness. It is a carefully orchestrated biochemical state, a time of deep renewal, in which the body repairs, reorganizes, and restores balance. Beneath the calm of stillness, countless reactions unfold, hormones shift, cells rebuild, the brain clears and reorders its pathways. This silent labor, hidden within the darkness of rest, is as essential to life as breathing or nourishment. Without it, the machinery of the body falters, and the harmony of mind and matter begins to fray. The chemistry of sleep begins long before the eyelids close. As daylight fades and the eyes perceive less light, the information travels to a small region of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock that governs the body's circadian rhythm. This clock measures time not in hours, but in cycles of light and darkness. It signals the pineal gland to release melatonin, a hormone that whispers to every cell that night has come. Melatonin slows the rhythm of wakefulness, lowers body temperature slightly, and prepares muscles and organs for rest. As it rises in the bloodstream, the body's energy shifts inward, from movement and reaction toward recovery and repair. Melatonin's influence is gentle, but far-reaching. It regulates not only the timing of sleep, but also the coordination of other hormones. Cortisol, the hormone of alertness, gradually declines as melatonin ascends. Insulin sensitivity changes, preparing the body to use energy differently during the night. Growth hormone, essential for tissue repair and regeneration, begins to rise, its peak occurring during the deepest stages of sleep. Even the immune system adjusts, releasing molecules called cytokines that protect and heal. Every cell, from the skin to the brain, receives these chemical signals and responds in harmony. As sleep deepens, the brain enters a cycle of stages, each with its own rhythm and chemistry. The first stage is light, a drifting between wakefulness and rest, guided by a reduction in the neurotransmitter norepinephrine. The second stage follows, marked by slower brain waves and brief bursts of electrical activity, known as sleep spindles, signs of the brain consolidating memory and processing the day's experiences. Then comes deep sleep, the most restorative phase, where the body's biochemistry works at its most peaceful pace. Blood pressure drops, breathing slows, and energy is redirected toward repair. During this time, cells produce proteins and enzymes that mend damage from the day's wear, from the smallest molecular misfold to the strain of physical exertion. Growth hormone, released from the pituitary gland, performs its quiet miracle during this deep sleep. It stimulates the regeneration of tissues, the strengthening of muscles, the rebuilding of collagen in the skin, and the renewal of bone. In children, it fuels development. In adults, it maintains vitality. At the same time, the immune system becomes more active. White blood cells circulate with increased efficiency, identifying and neutralizing potential threats. The body, though seemingly at rest, is in fact working diligently to preserve itself. As the night continues, the cycles of sleep repeat, gradually giving way to a different kind of rest, one dominated by rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. Here, the chemistry changes once again. The neurotransmitter acetylcholine becomes active, stimulating regions of the brain involved in dreaming, learning, and emotional balance. The body's temperature regulation becomes less precise, muscles relax deeply, and the mind drifts into vivid inner worlds. In this phase, memory, emotion, and creativity intertwine. The brain replays experiences, strengthens connections, and clears away what is unnecessary. The molecule adenosine, which accumulates during wakefulness and contributes to fatigue, is gradually broken down, leaving the mind refreshed for the coming day. Sleep also affects metabolism and energy balance. During rest, the body shifts from using glucose as its main source of fuel to relying more on fat metabolism, conserving glycogen stores for future activity. The hormone leptin rises, signaling fullness and energy sufficiency, while ghrelin, which promotes hunger, decreases. These changes maintain equilibrium between consumption and conservation, preparing the body for renewal without excess. When sleep is disrupted or insufficient, these delicate hormonal balances falter, leading to fatigue, cravings, and instability in mood and focus. The body, deprived of its nightly restoration, begins to strain against imbalance. Within the brain, another process unfolds, the cleansing of waste through what scientists call the glymphatic system. During deep sleep, the spaces between brain cells expand slightly, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flow more freely. This gentle stream washes away metabolic byproducts, such as proteins that accumulate during wakefulness. Among these are amyloid and tau, molecules that, when left unchecked, can contribute to cognitive decline. Sleep, then, is not only a state of rest but a nightly purification, a washing of the mind that preserves clarity and function. The chemistry of sleep is sensitive to rhythm and environment. Light, sound, and temperature all influence the production of hormones and the timing of cycles. Exposure to bright light late in the evening suppresses melatonin, delaying the onset of rest. Sudden noise or stress increases adrenaline and cortisol, making it harder for the body to settle. Even meals rich in sugar or caffeine can shift the balance of neurotransmitters, pulling the system toward wakefulness. In contrast, darkness, calm, and gentle routine encourage the natural cascade of sleep chemistry. It is as if the body, when given stillness, remembers how to return to its own harmony. Dreams, too, are part of this biochemical landscape. They arise from the interplay of neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, weaving memories into patterns of meaning. While their imagery may seem random, their function is deeply purposeful. Dreams help the brain integrate experiences, regulate emotion, and practice problem solving in symbolic form. During dreaming, stress-related chemicals like norepinephrine are reduced, allowing the mind to process emotion without anxiety. In this way, dreams contribute to the emotional balance of the waking self, turning the day's chaos into quiet understanding. When morning arrives and light filters once more into the eyes, the chemistry of sleep gently shifts again. Melatonin fades as the suprachiasmatic nucleus senses brightness, and cortisol begins to rise, preparing the body to awaken. Body temperature increases, heart rate quickens slightly, and the brain transitions from slow waves to alert patterns. The shift is not abrupt but smooth, a natural ascent from the deep waters of rest to the clear air of consciousness. The body, renewed and recalibrated, resumes its waking rhythm, ready once more for thought, movement, and life. Even as we move through the day, the memory of sleep lingers within. The repaired tissues, the balanced hormones, the cleansed mind, all are gifts of the night's biochemistry. They sustain focus, emotion, and resilience. And when the day's light fades, again, the body begins to prepare once more for renewal. The cycle continues, unbroken, as it has for millennia, linking each sunrise and sunset through the quiet miracle of rest. To reflect on the chemistry of sleep is to see life as a pattern of restoration. The same molecules that power thought and motion also sustain stillness and renewal. The same energy that drives creation also knows how to rest and rebuild. Within the silence of night, life returns to itself, remembering its balance, repairing its form, preparing for another day beneath the light. And as the body drifts deeper into calm, its chemistry sings the most ancient song, a rhythm of rest and rebirth, soft as breath, eternal as the turning of the earth. 16. The biochemistry of emotion. Deep within the architecture of the human body, beneath the surface of thought and language, emotion arises as a pattern of chemistry, a gentle interplay of molecules that guide how we feel, respond, and connect. What we call joy, sorrow, calm, or fear is not just abstract experience. It is the body's internal language made visible in the mind. Every feeling, from the soft warmth of affection to the trembling of anxiety, is rooted in biochemistry. Hormones, neurotransmitters, and subtle chemical messengers move through the brain and body, shaping perception and behavior in ways that feel deeply human. The biochemistry of emotion, though invisible, is one of the most intimate expressions of life's complexity. To understand emotion is to see it as both chemistry and meaning, an interaction between molecules and consciousness. Within the brain, billions of neurons communicate across tiny spaces called synapses. These neurons do not touch. Instead, they pass messages through chemicals known as neurotransmitters. When a thought, memory, or sensation arises, specific neurons fire, releasing neurotransmitters that influence neighboring cells. The balance of these molecules determines how we feel in that moment. Even the subtlest shift, a surge of dopamine, a decline in serotonin, a pulse of norepinephrine, can change the entire landscape of the mind. One of the most familiar neurotransmitters is dopamine, often associated with pleasure, reward, and motivation. It acts as the brain's quiet encouragement, rewarding actions that sustain life and well-being. When we eat, when we learn something new, or when we connect with another person, dopamine levels rise, reinforcing the behavior and creating a sense of satisfaction. Yet dopamine is not the molecule of joy alone. It is the molecule of pursuit, driving curiosity, exploration, and effort. It motivates the organism to reach toward the sources of comfort and meaning that sustain it. When balanced, dopamine fuels focus and enthusiasm. When diminished or excessive, it can lead to apathy or restlessness. Serotonin, another vital messenger, contributes to mood, calm, and emotional stability. Produced both in the brain and in the intestines, serotonin creates a sense of well-being, contentment, and balance. It helps regulate sleep, appetite, and even body temperature. When serotonin flows smoothly, emotions remain steady, thoughts feel clear, and the world appears harmonious. When its levels fall, shadows of anxiety and sadness may appear. This is why many treatments for depression aim to enhance serotonin's presence, restoring the chemical equilibrium that allows peace of mind to return. Serotonin reminds the body that calm is possible, even after turmoil. Norepinephrine, closely related to adrenaline, shapes the body's alertness and readiness to respond. When something captures attention, a sound, a memory, a moment of excitement, norepinephrine heightens awareness, quickens the pulse, and focuses the mind. It prepares the body to act. In small, balanced amounts, it sharpens focus and strengthens determination. In excess, it becomes anxiety, the body's energy, without a clear direction. Thus, emotion is not fixed but fluid, its tone depending on the balance among these molecules. Emotions are not confined to the brain. They ripple through the entire body. Hormones like cortisol, oxytocin, and endorphins extend the chemical language of emotion into the bloodstream. Cortisol, the so-called stress hormone, is part of the body's survival system. When a threat is perceived, cortisol rises, mobilizing energy and heightening alertness. This is useful in moments of danger, but exhausting when prolonged. The body is designed to experience stress briefly, not continuously. Prolonged elevation of cortisol can affect immune function, digestion, and sleep, showing how deeply emotional chemistry is tied to physical health. Opposite to cortisol in its effects is oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, released during moments of connection, a touch, a kind word, the closeness of companionship. Oxytocin fosters trust, empathy, and calm. It is the molecule of social harmony, encouraging cooperation and care. When oxytocin rises, heart rate decreases, tension eases, and the body relaxes into safety. It reminds us that connection, at its core, is biochemical, that the feeling of belonging is as real and physical as heartbeat or breath. Even small gestures, such as sharing food or hearing gentle words, can trigger its release, weaving bonds that sustain emotional well-being. Then there are the endorphins, the body's natural pain relievers and sources of euphoria, released during laughter, exercise, and even moments of reflection or gratitude. Endorphins quiet discomfort and heighten pleasure. They work by binding to receptors in the nervous system, reducing the perception of pain and replacing it with calm or exhilaration. Like dopamine and serotonin, endorphins are part of the body's reward system, ensuring that positive experiences are remembered and repeated. Through them, the chemistry of emotion teaches the body what brings peace and what restores balance. The limbic system of the brain serves as the stage where much of this emotional chemistry plays out. It includes structures such as the amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus regions that process memory, motivation, and feeling. When the amygdala detects a signal of threat or importance, it triggers a cascade of hormonal responses that spread through the body in moments. The hypothalamus, in turn, regulates these reactions, balancing survival instincts with calm. The hippocampus links them to memory, allowing emotions to gain context and meaning. Together, they form a bridge between instinct and thought, between the immediate reaction of the body and the reflective understanding of the mind. Emotion, though deeply chemical, is also shaped by experience. Over time, the patterns of neurotransmitters and hormones become intertwined with habits of thought. A person who practices gratitude, for example, regularly activates pathways of dopamine and serotonin, strengthening their presence. Similarly, prolonged stress can condition the body to release more cortisol and norepinephrine, making calm harder to reach. In this way, our inner chemistry is not fixed. It evolves with the stories we live and the choices we make. The mind and the body learn from one another, creating a feedback loop of emotion and biology that defines the shape of our days. Even seemingly intangible feelings such as love, awe, or melancholy have their molecular signatures. Love is a symphony of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, trust, reward, and calm intertwining. Awe, the feeling of reverent wonder, may arise from surges of dopamine combined with the quieting of the amygdala, allowing perception to expand. Melancholy, that soft sorrow tinged with reflection, may involve lower serotonin, but heightened connectivity in the brain's emotional centers, inviting introspection and empathy. Each emotion, while grounded in chemistry, points beyond it to meaning, connection, story of being alive. It is easy to think of chemistry as mechanical, but in emotion, it becomes poetic. Molecules move not with cold precision, but in waves of harmony that mirror life's rhythms. A moment of laughter is a chemical event, but it is also a glimpse of joy. A tear is water and salt, yet it carries the weight of memory and release. Emotion is where the material and the immaterial meet, the spark between neuron and soul. As the day ends and the body begins to quiet, the chemistry of emotion shifts toward peace. Cortisol declines, serotonin and melatonin rise, and the mind drifts toward rest. The same molecules that once brought energy and excitement now bring calm and reflection. The emotional storms of the day dissolve into equilibrium, leaving behind a stillness that allows the body to heal and the mind to dream. Even now, within you, these molecules flow in intricate harmony. They record your joys, ease your fears, and shape your connection to the world. You are not separate from them. You are their expression, a living tapestry woven from atoms that learn to feel. In the chemistry of emotion, we glimpse the unity of matter and meaning, the truth that what we call love or peace or hope is both molecular and infinite. And as you rest, your body continues its silent dialogue, balancing, remembering, and softly preparing for another day, the quiet chemistry of feeling continuing without end, gentle as the beating of the heart. 17. The biochemistry of aging time moves quietly through every living organism, not as an enemy, but as a companion. From the moment of birth, the body begins a long conversation with time, one that unfolds through the language of biochemistry. Every breath, every heartbeat, every cycle of cell renewal carries with it a trace of this dialogue. Aging, at its essence, is not simply the passing of years. It is the gradual shifting of the body's chemistry. It is the accumulation of small changes, subtle and steady, woven through molecules that once moved with perfect precision. Yet within this process lies a kind of beauty, for aging is also the expression of endurance, the story of a system that has sustained itself through millions of moments of balance and repair. In youth, the biochemistry of life moves swiftly and harmoniously. Cells divide easily, proteins fold with accuracy, and the repair systems that guard the body work efficiently. The enzymes that remove damaged molecules are plentiful, and the hormones that regulate energy and mood flow in measured abundance. The DNA within each cell is copied with near perfection, and when errors occur, repair mechanisms swiftly correct them. This is the peak of molecular harmony, when the processes of renewal and decay are in near perfect equilibrium. But as time unfolds, the balance begins to shift. The same systems that protect life gradually lose their precision. The DNA at the core of each cell, though constantly repaired, bears the marks of small mutations, slight alterations in the sequences that define our being. The ends of chromosomes, known as telomeres, shorten with each cell division, acting like the quiet ticking of a biological clock. Eventually, when they become too short, the cell can no longer divide safely. It enters a state called senescence, remaining alive but no longer able to renew. These senescent cells accumulate slowly in tissues, altering the chemical environment around them, releasing signals that influence nearby cells and sometimes trigger inflammation. Mitochondria, the small organelles that generate energy through cellular respiration, also experience the touch of time. They carry their own DNA, separate from the nucleus, and this DNA is particularly vulnerable to damage from reactive oxygen species, small, unstable molecules produced as byproducts of metabolism. In youth, antioxidant systems neutralize these reactive molecules efficiently, preventing harm. Over the years, however, the balance between creation and repair changes. Small amounts of oxidative stress begin to accumulate, gradually affecting the proteins and membranes that make up the mitochondria. As their efficiency declines, energy production slows, and the gentle hum of metabolism begins to waver. Proteins, too, bear the marks of time. These molecular machines are constantly built, used, and replaced. But as the years pass, errors in folding become more common. Some proteins form clumps or aggregates that the cell cannot easily remove. The accumulation of such misfolded proteins contributes to the aging of tissues and, in some cases, to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Yet even here, the body continues to fight quietly, activating chaperone proteins and enzymes that refold or recycle damaged molecules. Aging does not occur through failure alone, but through the gradual slowing of processes that once worked with youthful precision. Hormones, the body's messengers, also shift with age. Growth hormone, abundant in youth, declines, reducing the rate of tissue regeneration. Estrogen and testosterone wane, altering metabolism, bone density, and mood. Cortisol, the hormone of stress, may linger longer in the bloodstream, subtly affecting inflammation and sleep. Insulin sensitivity can change, influencing the way the body processes sugar and stores energy. Each of these changes represents a recalibration of the internal dialogue, a new balance between activity and conservation. The body, even as it ages, continues to adapt. It does not stop striving for equilibrium. It simply finds it in a different form. Inflammation plays a quiet but significant role in the chemistry of aging. In youth, inflammation is a protective response, a surge of immune activity that heals wounds and fights infection. Over time, however, the body may enter a state of low, chronic inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging. This subtle but persistent activation of the immune system can contribute to tissue damage and fatigue, influencing the progression of many age-related conditions. Yet within this process lies the same duality seen throughout life. Inflammation protects and heals, but when balance fades, the key to longevity, in biochemical terms, is maintaining that fine equilibrium between defense and rest. The nervous system, too, changes with time. Neurons, unlike many other cells, do not readily divide, and while they can form new connections, they rely heavily on maintenance. Dopamine may decline, slowing motivation and movement. Serotonin, the molecule of calm, can fluctuate, influencing mood and sleep. The speed of nerve transmission decreases slightly as protective myelin sheaths thin. Still, the brain compensates through plasticity by strengthening existing connections and forming new pathways in response to experience. The mind remains capable of learning and adaptation, even when the chemistry of youth has softened. At the heart of all these changes lies energy, the quiet current that drives every reaction. As metabolism slows, the body becomes more selective in its use of energy. Repair and renewal continue, but with greater care and focus. This slowing is not a failure, but a refinement, a shift toward efficiency. The body learns to do more with less, conserving strength for what matters most. It becomes a master of subtlety rather than speed, a testament to the wisdom written into every molecule of life. Even the senses change in biochemical harmony with age. The eyes adjust less quickly to darkness, the ears become less sensitive to high tones, and the sense of taste softens. Yet these changes are balanced by new forms of awareness, patience, empathy, reflection. Shaped by decades of biochemical and emotional experience, the body may lose some sharpness of reaction, but it gains depth of response. Emotionally, the chemistry of calm often grows stronger. Oxytocin and serotonin may play larger roles, fostering compassion and acceptance. Aging, seen through the lens of chemistry, is not only decay but transformation, a movement from intensity to depth, from reaction to reflection. The body continues to repair itself, even in late life. Cells replace damaged parts, DNA repair enzymes still function, and antioxidant systems still patrol for reactive molecules. The rate may slow, but the intention remains the desire of life to maintain itself. Exercise, nourishment, rest, and emotional balance all influence the chemistry of aging. Physical activity increases the release of endorphins and growth factors, stimulating mitochondrial renewal. A calm mind lowers cortisol, allowing hormones of repair to rise. Even the act of gratitude, simple and intangible, has biochemical effects, reducing inflammation, balancing neurotransmitters, and supporting resilience. To age is to participate in the ongoing experiment of life's chemistry. Each molecule carries memory of sunlight, of breath, of nourishment, and the body continues to adapt as it always has. Aging is not a sudden event but a continuum, a long process of dialogue between creation and entropy. Within every wrinkle and gray hair lies the story of countless molecular victories of cells that repaired, defended, and renewed themselves for decades. The passing of time marks not decline alone, but endurance, the evidence of life's persistence in an ever-changing world. As the night deepens and the body rests, the chemistry of aging continues its quiet work. Cells still breathe, blood still flows, and the soft rhythm of repair never stops. The molecules that once built youth now maintain wisdom. They remember every change, every adaptation, and continue the same purpose they held at the beginning: to sustain life in balance. Aging, then, is not an ending but a continuation, a gentle slowing of the same song that began with the first heartbeat. It is the body's way of moving toward peace, molecule by molecule, until all that remains is the calm and steady harmony of being. 18. The molecular symphony of healing. When the body is injured, whether by a small cut, an illness, or the wear of daily life, a quiet miracle begins. Beneath the surface of pain and disruption, the molecules of life move into motion, weaving repair from disorder. Healing is not a single act but a sequence of events, an orchestra of chemistry and communication that restores harmony where balance has been disturbed. Each step is guided by intricate signaling, precise timing, and deep intelligence written into the very structure of our biology. The process is ancient, universal, and continuous. Even now, as you breathe, it unfolds somewhere within you. At the first sign of injury, the body responds instantly. A cut in the skin, a strain in a muscle, or a tear in tissue sends a signal that something has gone wrong. Damaged cells release chemical messengers such as histamine, prostaglandins, and cytokines, molecules that act like alarms, summoning help from nearby blood vessels and immune cells. The vessels expand, increasing blood flow to the area, and their walls become more permeable, allowing essential components to pass through. This is the beginning of inflammation, the first stage of healing. It is not a sign of harm but of protection, the body's way of gathering the tools it needs to begin repair. White blood cells arrive next, guided by molecular signals that act as invisible trails through the bloodstream. Neutrophils are among the first responders, moving swiftly toward the damaged site. They engulf bacteria and debris, releasing enzymes that clear away what no longer belongs. Their work is intense and short-lived, for they sacrifice themselves in the process, forming part of the fluid that accumulates around wounds. Soon after, macrophages arrive, larger, slower, and wiser, cells that continue the cleanup and release new signals to guide the next phase. These signals include growth factors, chemical cues that encourage nearby cells to divide, migrate, and rebuild. The inflammatory phase, though sometimes painful or red, is essential. It contains the seeds of healing. The heat and swelling that accompany it are signs of activity, not failure, signs that blood flow, nutrients, and immune defenses are gathering in concert. Within days, as the threat subsides and the debris is cleared, the chemistry of inflammation begins to fade. Anti-inflammatory molecules rise, gently quieting the initial surge, and the next phase of healing begins. Proliferation. In the proliferative stage, the body turns from defense to creation. Fibroblasts, the builders of tissue, move into the area and begin producing collagen, long, strong fibers that form the framework of new skin and connective tissue. Endothelial cells, which line blood vessels, sprout and divide, creating new capillaries that bring oxygen and nutrients to the growing tissue. This network of new vessels, called granulation tissue, gives healing wounds their soft, pink appearance. Underneath, keratinocytes spread across the surface, sealing the wound and restoring the barrier between body and world. Every step is coordinated through chemical whispers, each molecule knowing when to appear, when to act, and when to fade. Even bones, the firmest structures of the body, follow a similar rhythm. When a bone breaks, cells within its matrix sense the disruption and begin releasing growth factors. A soft cartilage callus forms first, bridging the gap. Over time, calcium and phosphate crystals are deposited, hardening the callus into new bone. Osteoblasts build, osteoclasts shape, and the skeleton renews itself, cell by cell. Within months, the bone regains its strength not as it was before, but stronger where it once broke, reinforced by the very chemistry of recovery. The final stage of healing, called remodeling or maturation, is one of quiet refinement. The new tissue that was formed quickly and imperfectly in the early stages begins to organize itself. Collagen fibers realign along lines of tension. Capillaries withdraw where they are no longer needed, and cells settle back into balance. The scar that remains is a record of healing smoother, paler, and less flexible than uninjured tissue, yet a testament to the resilience of the body. Even here, the process continues in miniature. Over time, scars soften, blood vessels fade, and the new tissue gradually blends with the old. At the molecular level, this entire process is guided by feedback loops and signaling cascades. Cytokines, chemokines, and growth factors form a network of communication, ensuring that every cell knows its role. If too little inflammation occurs, healing slows. If too much persists, damage increases. The balance is delicate, maintained by regulatory molecules that both initiate and restrain the process. Among these are transforming growth factor beta, TGF-beta, which controls cell proliferation, and interleukin-10, which calms immune activity when the work is done. The result is a seamless transition from injury to restoration, a choreography of molecules performing with precision in the stillness of the body. Beyond wounds and fractures, the same biochemistry governs healing on a subtler scale. Every day, tissues renew themselves quietly, replacing cells that have reached the end of their cycle. The lining of the stomach regenerates every few days. Red blood cells are replaced every few months, and the skin continually sheds and renews. Even the liver, one of the body's busiest organs, can regenerate up to 3/4 of its mass if damaged. These processes follow the same principles: detection of imbalance, communication through chemical messengers, and restoration of order. Healing, in this sense, is not an event but a constant undercurrent of life. The nervous system, though slower to repair, also participates in this molecular symphony. When a nerve is injured, specialized cells called Schwann cells begin to clear away debris and form pathways for regrowth. Growth factors such as nerve growth factor, NGF, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, stimulate neurons to extend new branches, reconnecting circuits of sensation and motion. The process is patient and deliberate, guided by gradients of chemicals that tell each cell where to grow and when to stop. Though the repair may not always be perfect, it represents the nervous system's profound capacity for renewal, an echo of the same pattern that governs all living tissues. Emotion, too, affects the chemistry of healing. Stress hormones like cortisol can slow inflammation's resolution, delaying repair, while calm and rest encourage it. Positive emotion, social connection, and even gentle touch increase the release of oxytocin and endorphins, which reduce pain and promote cellular regeneration. The body listens to the mind's signals, translating mood into molecular changes. In turn, healing itself influences emotion, as restored balance brings not only physical recovery but also a sense of peace and safety. The link between body and mind is not metaphorical, it is molecular. As sleep returns each night, the chemistry of healing deepens. Growth hormone rises again, protein synthesis accelerates, and the immune system renews its vigilance. During dreams, the mind may revisit the injury not to dwell on it, but to integrate the experience, weaving it into the larger fabric of memory. Healing, both physical and emotional, is an act of integration, the rejoining of what was once whole. In truth, healing is not confined to moments of injury. It is the body's constant promise to itself, the assurance that balance can always be restored. Every heartbeat delivers nutrients and removes waste. Every breath replaces what is lost. Even aging, though it slows the pace, does not end the process. The chemistry of repair continues quietly until the last moment of life, a testament to the persistence of equilibrium. If one could see inside the body during healing, it would appear as a shimmering landscape of motion cells, migrating like gentle waves, fibers weaving, molecules exchanging signals like soft voices in a vast choir. There would be no chaos, only a slow and deliberate unfolding, a pattern repeated endlessly across time. To heal is to remember what it means to be alive, to transform disruption into order, pain into calm, and injury into renewal. Even now, within you, healing is taking place. Tiny cuts are closing, cells are dividing, and molecules are aligning in silence. The body's chemistry continues its work without rest, guided by wisdom written long before memory. It is a reminder that beneath awareness, beneath thought, life itself is always tending toward restoration. Healing is not merely recovery from harm. It is the steady movement of all living things toward balance, a molecular symphony that plays endlessly, softly, and beautifully, as long as life endures. 19. Molecular memory. How the body remembers. Memory is often thought of as belonging to the mind alone, a collection of moments stored in the quiet chambers of the brain. Yet memory, in its truest sense, exists in every part of the body. It is written into the molecules that make up cells, into the patterns of proteins, and the pathways of neurons. The body remembers not only the stories of thought and experience, but also the lessons of movement, immunity, and adaptation. Every heartbeat, every scar, every reflex carries traces of what came before. This molecular memory is the foundation of continuity, allowing life to learn from the past and prepare for what comes next. At its simplest level, memory begins within the cell. DNA, the archive of all biological information, is a kind of molecular memory that reaches back to the dawn of life. Its sequence of nucleotides records the instructions for every structure and process of the organism. But even beyond the genetic code, there exists another layer of remembrance, the epigenetic. Epigenetics refers to the chemical modifications that sit atop DNA, influencing which genes are active and which remain silent. These changes do not alter the genetic letters themselves, but they shape how those letters are read. They can be influenced by environment, emotion, diet, and experience. When a person adapts to stress or recovers from illness, epigenetic marks may shift to reflect that history, subtly altering how future cells behave. In this way, memory becomes more than information, it becomes adaptation encoded in chemistry. The immune system is one of the body's most remarkable examples of molecular memory. When a virus or bacterium invades, the immune cells respond with precision and speed. B cells produce antibodies, proteins shaped exactly to match the invader, while T cells seek and destroy infected cells. Once the infection is gone, most of these immune cells die away, but a small number remain as memory cells. They remember the molecular signature of the intruder, sometimes for decades. If the same pathogen appears again, these cells respond instantly, producing antibodies before illness can take hold. This is why a childhood illness rarely returns, and why vaccines work. They teach the immune system to remember safely. Within the quiet chemistry of immunity, the body keeps its own history, a record not of words or images, but of encounters and defenses. The nervous system holds another kind of memory, one that forms the essence of thought and experience. When neurons communicate, they do so through chemical messengers that pass across synapses. Each time a connection between two neurons is used, it becomes slightly stronger, its efficiency improved through molecular change. This process, called synaptic plasticity, is the physical foundation of learning. Proteins within the synapse shift, receptors increase, and gene expression adjusts to reinforce the pathway. Over time, networks of strengthened connections form patterns that correspond to skills, language, emotion, and identity. Even a simple memory, like the scent of rain or the feel of warmth on the skin, involves the cooperation of countless molecules working in harmony. In the brain's hippocampus, where many new memories are formed, this chemistry operates with exquisite sensitivity. The neurotransmitter glutamate plays a key role, activating receptors that allow calcium to flow into neurons. The calcium acts as a signal, triggering cascades of molecular activity that lead to lasting change in the cell's structure and function. These changes are stabilized by proteins, which reshape the synapse to make future activation easier. In this way, the brain learns through molecules arranging themselves in patterns of response, repetition, and retention. The act of remembering is not static but living, dependent on constant renewal and reactivation. But memory does not belong solely to the brain. Muscles remember too, through a phenomenon known as motor memory. When we learn to walk, play an instrument, or swim, the patterns of movement are encoded in the nervous and muscular systems. This is not stored as conscious knowledge, but as biochemical refinement. Motor neurons establish strong, specific connections with muscle fibers, and repeated motion strengthens these pathways. Proteins within the muscles adjust to become more efficient at responding to the brain's signals. Over time, Actions that once required thought balancing, typing, breathing rhythmically become automatic. The memory of movement is stored in the very fibers that carry it out. A quiet choreography guided by chemistry. Emotion also leaves a molecular trace. When an experience evokes strong feeling, hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol heighten awareness, ensuring that the moment is recorded with clarity. The amygdala, the brain's center for emotional processing, communicates with the hippocampus, influencing how memories are stored. Emotional memories are often stronger and more enduring than neutral ones because they are marked by chemical intensity. Even years later, the same pathways can be reactivated by a scent, a sound, or a fleeting image, bringing emotion to the surface once again. The chemistry of emotion and memory intertwines, ensuring that what matters most to survival, love, danger, connection, is not easily forgotten. The body's memory extends to the cellular level of repair and resilience. When tissues are injured, cells at the site of healing often retain a record of the event. Fibroblasts that once produced scar tissue may remain more active in that region, ready to respond faster to future damage. Similarly, the immune cells that patrol the body's barriers in the skin, lungs, and gut develop local patterns of response based on what they have encountered before. This distributed memory allows the body to tailor its defenses to specific environments, making the chemistry of adaptation both personal and precise. Even metabolism carries echoes of experience. Prolonged fasting, exercise, or stress can alter the way enzymes function and how energy is processed. The mitochondria adapt, adjusting their efficiency and capacity. Over time, these changes influence how cells respond to future conditions, creating a biochemical memory of endurance. The same principle applies to mental and emotional states. Repeated patterns of stress or calm can shift the balance of neurotransmitters and hormones, establishing tendencies that persist. Through this molecular feedback, habits, whether physical or emotional, are reinforced, shaping both health and behavior. In every aspect of life, molecular memory serves as a bridge between the past and the present. It allows the body to grow wiser, to avoid mistakes, and to refine its reactions. Yet it also reminds us that forgetting, too, is part of balance. Just as the brain prunes unused neural connections to make space for new ones, the body clears away outdated cellular patterns. Apoptosis, the programmed death of cells, ensures that the old makes way for the new. The immune system, too, regulates its memory, letting go of cells that are no longer needed. Forgetting, at the molecular level, is not loss but renewal, the clearing of space for life to continue learning. The harmony of remembering and forgetting shapes every moment of existence. Each heartbeat follows the rhythm learned from the one before it. Each breath recalls the pattern of countless others. Even rest and sleep carry memory, the body remembering how to slow, how to heal, how to dream. It is through these memories, stored and released, that continuity is maintained. If we could see this process, we would witness an endless flow of molecules weaving the story of life, proteins folding and unfolding in patterns of recollection, DNA marking experiences in quiet epigenetic notes, neurons strengthening their bonds like the chords of a long and gentle song. Memory, seen in this way, is not confined to thought. It is the body's way of holding time, of carrying the past into the present without ever stopping to look back. As you rest, your own molecular memories continue their soft work. Your immune system recalls the illnesses it has defeated. Your muscles remember the movements that carry you through the world. Your brain replays the echoes of days and dreams, reinforcing what must be kept and releasing what can fade. In this moment, you are not separate from your history, you are its living continuation. Every cell, every molecule, remembers enough to keep you whole, balanced, and alive. And in that continuity lies something deeper than science, the poetry of existence itself. Life remembers because it must, but it also remembers because it cares to endure. Every act of healing, learning, or feeling is a form of remembrance. You are made of memory, molecular, emotional, eternal, and even when you sleep, the chemistry of remembrance hums on quietly within, preserving the thread that connects all your days into one unbroken line of being. 20. The quiet harmony of life. As the journey of biochemistry draws to a close, it becomes clear that life itself is not defined by any single molecule, reaction, or organ. It is the sum of all these, woven together in quiet harmony. Every living being, from the smallest cell drifting in the ocean to the human body lying at rest, exists because of balance, the continual interplay between order and change, energy and stillness. This harmony does not demand attention or applause. It unfolds silently, molecule by molecule, in every breath, heartbeat, and thought. To reflect on the chemistry of life is to listen for that quiet music beneath the noise of existence, the eternal rhythm that sustains all things. At the most fundamental level, life is organization born from chaos. The atoms that compose every living thing, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and the rest, once drifted freely through oceans and air. Yet, drawn together by subtle forces, they formed the structures that could hold energy, replicate, and evolve. This transformation from randomness to pattern is the miracle that began billions of years ago and has continued unbroken ever since. Within each cell, this miracle still happens endlessly, chemical reactions aligning with precision, proteins folding with purpose, and molecules joining and parting in delicate synchrony. What we experience as life is the steady unfolding of chemistry arranged into meaning. Every cell in the body, trillions upon trillions of them, plays its part in this harmony. They communicate, divide, and adapt with perfect timing. Within each cell, enzymes act as the caretakers of order, guiding reactions that would otherwise occur too slowly to sustain life. These enzymes, built from amino acids arranged in exact sequences, embody the principle of precision through simplicity. They know nothing, yet they perform with unerring accuracy, folding into shapes that allow molecules to meet at just the right moment. Each reaction produces energy or structure, contributing to the larger organism, a quiet act of cooperation that echoes across the body. The harmony of life depends not only on what happens, but on what does not happen too quickly or too strongly. Balance is maintained through regulation, feedback loops that keep the internal environment steady even as the world outside changes. When energy rises too high, other reactions absorb it. When it falls too low, reserves are released. Hormones and enzymes work like gentle conductors, ensuring that no system overpowers another. This constant adjustment is the essence of homeostasis, the silent intelligence of living matter. Through it, the body remains poised between extremes, warm but not overheated, active but not chaotic, alive yet always tending toward calm. At the center of this harmony lies energy itself, flowing like a quiet current through every process. Whether it comes from sunlight captured by plants or nutrients absorbed by animals, this energy is passed from one form to another in endless cycles. ATP, the molecule that carries energy within the cell, is made and used continuously, rising and falling in concentration with each heartbeat. Each molecule of ATP, once used, is replaced in less than a minute, ensuring that no part of the system runs dry. The energy that powers thought, motion, and renewal today once shone as sunlight on a leaf, a reminder that even the smallest act of life connects to the wider web of nature. In this grand cycle, death too has its place. The molecules that form the body are never truly lost. They return to the earth and become part of new forms. The carbon exhaled from the lungs nourishes plants. The minerals within bones rejoin the soil. What was once part of one being becomes part of another, in an exchange so gentle and continuous that there is no clear boundary between life and death, only transformation. Biochemistry teaches that life is not ownership but participation, a temporary arrangement of matter and energy that, for a while, learns to sing in harmony with the rest. The same principles that sustain a single cell sustain the planet as a whole. In forests, oceans, and air, cycles of chemistry mirror those within the body. Photosynthesis and respiration balance each other. Carbon and oxygen flow between living things, and nutrients circulate through soil and sea. The Earth's atmosphere, temperature, and ecosystems are maintained through feedback systems, not unlike those that regulate the body's internal state. In a way, the planet breathes too, inhaling and exhaling through its living systems. This resemblance is not metaphor but truth. The same chemistry that creates a cell's balance also creates the world's. Life is one continuous pattern repeating itself on every scale. Within the human mind, this harmony takes on another form awareness. The brain, built of the same carbon and water as any other tissue, generates consciousness through the movement of ions and neurotransmitters. Billions of neurons communicate in waves of electrical and chemical activity, forming thoughts, emotions, and memory. This awareness is not separate from the body's chemistry, but its most intricate expression. The feelings of love, curiosity, and peace are themselves biochemical states coordinated, balanced, and deeply natural. To feel awe at the complexity of life is, in a sense, to experience life, recognizing itself. Even silence, rest, and sleep are part of the molecular harmony. When the body sleeps, its chemistry shifts into renewal. Energy that was once used for action is redirected toward repair. The brain organizes memories, the immune system strengthens, and tissues rebuild. This nightly return to balance ensures that life can continue with steadiness and grace. The alternation between activity and rest, day and night, mirrors the deeper rhythm of the universe, expansion and contraction, creation and stillness. Every heartbeat carries both motion and pause, and it is this balance that allows life to endure. The mind, too, seeks biochemical equilibrium. Thoughts that race too quickly are soothed by neurotransmitters that slow them. Emotions that rise too high are calmed by those that restore peace. The body and mind are never truly separate, for each influences the other through chemistry. Calm breathing alters hormone levels, easing stress. Gentle movement releases endorphins, quieting pain. Even gratitude and kindness have measurable effects, increasing oxytocin and serotonin molecules that deepen connection and stability. Thus, the harmony of life extends beyond biology into the quiet acts of living itself. In the stillness of night, the chemistry of existence continues without pause. The heart beats, oxygen moves through the blood, and molecules exchange energy with perfect rhythm. Even when awareness fades into sleep, the harmony does not break. The body's internal world carries on, adjusting, repairing, and renewing. This persistence, this gentle continuity, is what makes life so extraordinary. It needs no command or control. It simply knows how to endure, how to balance, how to keep the song of existence playing softly beneath all things. To look at life through the lens of biochemistry is to see both simplicity and wonder. Everything that exists follows the same principles: attraction, reaction, transformation. Yet from those simple rules arise beings capable of thought, love, and reflection. The molecules that drift through your body tonight once belonged to stars, oceans, and other living things. They have joined and separated countless times. But in this moment, they are arranged as you breathing, thinking, and feeling. You are the universe's chemistry, made conscious of itself for a fleeting while. As you rest, the harmony of life continues within you. Your cells hum in quiet cooperation. Your blood carries the memory of oceans, and your breath mingles with the ancient air of the earth. There is no separation between you and the world, only continuity. The same atoms that now sustain you will one day nourish other forms of life, and through them, the pattern will go on. In that endless cycle of renewal lies peace, the knowledge that nothing is truly lost, that life, in its molecular grace, is eternal. And so, as this quiet reflection draws to an end, imagine your body as a soft constellation of reactions, each one precise, purposeful, and calm. Within you, chemistry becomes consciousness, and within that consciousness, the universe listens to itself. Life is not chaos, but music, a gentle melody of atoms and energy, playing softly, endlessly, beautifully. It has no beginning and no end, only harmony. In that harmony, all things rest.